Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto uses Forbidden Scroll to summon Devil in Chunin exam part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. There was once a village of ninja and civilians that worked together to prosper. For civilization, it was a free ticket to protection. For the ninja, it was a central base of operations, to raise and nurture a select few to take on their mantle when they fade away. Eventually, their reasons in forming the village was blurred and enough time has passed where no one can really recollect why they settled down, other than some outlandish reasons. The story begins in this very village. A village called Konoha, and the story of the young man named Naruto Uzumaki. It was winter season, and in the middle of January in Konoha village. The local weather ninja predicted that this particular day was to be recorded to be the worst winter day in the history of the usually warm climate village. Granted, they have their share of snow days, but there have been reports that the average temperature had been steadily declining in the last decade. Some have been saying something completely erratic like a lack of faith to a sort of sun deity, despite having no actual evidence that a deity even existed. Like any civilization, there are many diverse opinions. Some believed in something A, and some believed in something B. When ideologies clashed, there were many incidents, forcing Konoha's ninja forces to step in and act as a police force. Despite their differences, there was one target that they unified against. It was incredible to believe that the one they united against was a small boy. Naruto Uzumaki can easily say that the village did not like him, but he couldn't for the life of him find out why. He wasn't sure, but he would swear that everyone seemed to notice him the moment he stepped out of his apartment and into the merchant district, where most civilians would go for the local markets and equipment shops. One minute everyone was acting normal and happy, and the moment he stepped foot into the edge of the district, everyone would just stare angrily at him. He was used to these stares now, but it was a completely different case when he was younger. When he was 4, around the same time he spent the last year huddled with a bunch of orphan children from the Kyuubi attack, he was treated to a particularly rougher confrontation with some half-wit drunk men. He wasn't hurt since their swipes were so clumsy that he could have spat in their face before moving backwards in the time they tried to hit him. Naturally, he wasn't so low that he did that, but the report that summoned him to the Hokage's office told a very different story. He tried to tell his story to the old man, but he was constantly interrupted by the distraught civilian, who was sporting gashes that both the Hokage and the ninja mediating the dispute saw that those injuries could not have been done by a child's nails. Since the victim didn't accuse him of carrying weapons, instead hysterically claiming that he grew big red claws to tear apart his defenseless self, he was sure of his case against the boy would succeed. Only his imagination could contain the fantasies of what the brat would get as punishment. He didn't notice 3 things: the stares that the older Hokage and the ninja around him gave, the obvious flaws in his claims, and the fact that he didn't know how to present a believable case to the highest power in their village. Regardless, he was told that it would get handled properly, and that was somehow enough for him to leave. Afterward, the Hokage asked for his version of what happened and Naruto told them what he could remember of the night, which involved taking a shortcut that really wasn't back to the orphanage. To the Hokage's recollection, however, Naruto wasn't this calm. In fact, he remembered that the usually proud boy was close to crying in fear to the old man when he arrived in his office that day. Rather than reprimanding the boy, he had to find another way to limit these headache-inducing meetings, if he could call them that. It also occurred to him that the more vengeful civilians could have followed him to the orphanage and posed a threat to either the children or the matron taking care of the blonde boy. So the idea came to him, why not let him live on his own? A place where he would be looked after by both the people living there and the secrecy of his location known only to Hokage. Since then, Naruto was relocated to the ninja residential district. When Naruto asked why he was being moved there, although he wasn't really complaining, since the kids were real jerks, the old man changed the subject rather quickly and turned the direction of the conversation to a rather friendly ramen stand that opened up near his new home a few years ago. Naruto, whose mind wasn't as refined, although he would claim differently, as a seasoned shinobi, instantly fell for it and started asking the Hokage about the new restaurant. A sudden gust of wind broke Naruto's path of memory lane, although he wasn't as affected as the people around him, shivering even worse than him at some points. Naruto always wondered why these people were wearing so much clothes, but shivering as if they were wearing nothing more than a flimsy shirt. He wasn't particularly dressed for the occasion, but he wasn't as affected as them, and he was wearing a simple sweater. Although it might have helped him that he had a knitted scarf that Ayame, the daughter of the owner of the best shop in the universe, Ichiraku's Ramen, gave him with a kiss to the cheek one birthday afternoon a year back. According to Ayame, he has never blushed as brightly since then. Naruto still denied that he even turned a hint of red. He even joked about it sometimes, saying loudly that he had a secret fire inside his belly that kept him warm all the time. He would get weird and sometimes horrified looks whenever he said that out in the open. He was enjoying the scarcity of the civilian populace in the main market square today. Not too many glares from the civilians today since it was so cold. He could see the astonishment of some people here and there, as if wondering what God damned them and blessed him to dress so lightly in the harshest winter of Konoha history. Today, he was off to play in the park, since he considered this day to be his special day with no jerks like the local bullies to bother him while playing alone. Yep, it was going to be terrific. Although, Naruto wondered silently. It was going to be pretty lonely, no one was there to talk to him, bully him, or even be far away from him. He didn't like the coldness of the people around him, but it was still nice to have human contact, even if they were nowhere near him. He found that he liked the presence of human life around his young being. As he arrived in the park, he saw that the park was indeed empty like he thought. The swings were barren and the sand was mixed in with the snow, making it some sort of grainy slush. He also spied another makeshift swing on a tree a little ways away from the main equipment. Naruto grinned and swung the lone wooden swing like he always wanted, standing on it. After a few long swings, he wanted to try something he always wanted to do and begun twisting his body and watched how the swing twisted like a tightly wound piece of rope. It was a bit exhilarating how he could act on impulse, without anyone like a bully bothering him, or even that overbearing teacher he was forced to call sensei to at the academy telling him to stop. Naruto frowned, his mind thinking back to a few weeks back. His teacher was pretty vindictive that day, and on his birthday of all days. Now that he thought about it, what was wrong with using paint as a distraction to a problem anyways? Even he knew he could use pellets to hold paint, and his opponent would be distracted when he threw them. However, his sensei just chewed him out in front of the class and explained that paint wasn't the norm and was less effective than a smoke bomb, which another of the students present helpfully supplied. Naruto frowned at the memory. What did that guy know? He was Naruto Uzumaki, and if he wanted to use paint for a technique, then no one would stop him. He was the future Hokage after all. His mental rant cost him his concentration, however. He didn't pay attention how the twisting wasn't in his control and he began unraveling at uncontrolled speeds, making him panic as he tried to steer it back into his control and was failing at it. Sure enough, the force of the unraveling swing promptly threw him off the swing a couple of feet and he landed on his head before his body crumbled from gravity and landed awkwardly onto the floor. As he was clearing his sore head from snow and dirt, he could have sworn that he was seeing things. He saw something strange. A young girl was playing around in the snow a few feet from where he fell. The girl didn't seem to notice him and was having fun just touching the snow, not noticing her surroundings. Naruto sometimes wished he was so enthralled by the little things in life like the girl was doing. He wondered if she wasn't able to get out often or slipped away from her parents. As he was observing her, something about her confused him. He might have been overthinking it, but he couldn't be sure what the girl looked like. It was as if her looks were not registering in his memories somehow, but he was able to remember people just fine, like I am, or the old man. Then he remembered how some of the children told the other children, with him listening in, that this area was haunted by spirits of the dead. One of which was a little girl who always played in Snow White. He turned to the girl, who was now alert of her surroundings and watching the skies with a mixture of intensity and alarm. Could that girl possibly be? Naruto paled in fear, having never told anyone that he was afraid of those ghost stories. Was this the girl from one of the stories? A ghost girl? Almost on cue, the girl turned to him and was astonished. Naruto was equally surprised, and it didn't take long for his paranoia of the supernatural to take effect. He suddenly scrambled out of the area, trying very hard not to admit that he both feared the girl and that his bladder had decided to give up and it took his will to hold it in. If he looked back, however, the girl had her arm raised toward him and was looking sad that he ran away. She then faded away, feeling rejected at the boy's departure. It was a somewhat slow day in the Hokage Tower, and the Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, wished that the mechanics of the tower followed suit. Alas, it wasn't to be. The paperwork kept coming, and he sometimes didn't even know who kept making the infernal things. For example, he was staring at one form that somehow needed his signature on. He peered closer in disbelief. He expected to sign off on mandatory Ika volumes included as standard gear for Jounins. He paused. Maybe that wasn't such a bad idea. No. Rejecting it, he moved on to the next form. A request to include Pocky bars as standard rations? Confused, he looked at the date, and wondered how long was that thing in the process stage and was startled 3 years ago. He sighed in frustration and in resignation. He really shouldn't have gotten this job back. Day in and day out he had to sign this, initial that, it never ended, It did have a bright side to it though. Sometimes when Naruto came in on official business, read, being caught, he was granted a brief respite from signing those damnable forms, and he had a chance to talk to Naruto and question his well-being sometimes. When Naruto just came in for the hell of it, he was also given a well-deserved break, read, abandoned paperwork, and had time to talk to the energetic lad. Something felt off though, and Hiruzen had an inkling why. He had a full fire roaring in the fireplace, and he found it odd that it was cold somehow. Maybe it was in his mind, but he felt that without Naruto, it felt colder somehow. Speaking of Naruto, where was the boy? Usually, his locator crystal on his bookshelf would tell him where he was at all times, but he didn't like to use it for preserving the chakra stored in the artifact. It was originally the first Hokage's prized possession, and he liked to think it was a privilege to care for and to keep it functional as a duty to the first leader of this village. Still, that didn't mean he wouldn't use it to keep track of his favorite Hellion, would it? Grabbing the crystal from the middle shelf, Hiruzen settled it in front of him and closed his eyes for a moment as he gathered up his chakra to power the artifact. He then thought about Naruto in order to locate him through the crystal. Of all emotions he expected Naruto to have when he peered into the crystal, it certainly wasn't distress. He was surprised to see Naruto in the forested area of the Hokage monument. He usually was in the park around this time of the day, but he understood that it was so lonely today because of the fierce storm outside. He frowned, however, at the panicked look that the boy sported suddenly before he started dashing toward the monument. He looked toward the area where the boy was supposed to be and nothing strange was happening in terms of chakra, however. He didn't rule out that some idiot villager was out to get him in some romanticized quest of revenge and honor. Of course, it could be nothing and the boy was play-acting, but to be sure, he called his on-site intelligence officer within the Umbu ranks. After a few words with him, the officer concluded that no foreign chakra was detected by the agents in the field. Confounded, he dismissed the officer and continued to watch the fleeing boy before he lost the image on his chakra orb. He tried increasing the chakra input on the crystal, but the image of the boy he grew to think of his grandson wouldn't appear again. He called for the Umbu squad in the area and ordered them to watch over the boy through the on-site Umbu officer. He could only pray that his successor's legacy was safe and sound. Naruto was officially freaked out. He was so sure that he was seeing things, at least that was what he told himself that repeatedly. There was no way that a blob of green whatever was chasing him all over the forest while spewing drawn-out sounds that seemed to be words at him. There was no damn way. He looked back and grimaced at the thought that the thing was awfully quick for having no bone structure, and how was that thing still talking to him? The gelatinous thing was still chasing him. He was also saying phrases like SSSTTTOP. I wanted to talk. And Kumhiri. I want to see what YOU tasted like. Naruto scoffed. He wasn't stopping for anyone, especially not that thing. Naruto groaned as the thing still chased him, and he cursed the teacher for being lax in teaching them how to use weapons. He really could have used some kunai training right about now. After dashing through numerous trees and going in zigzagging patterns through them, Naruto was sure that he eluded that whatever the hell that thingy was. Pausing, he took a breath of fresh air into his lungs. It was sure sweet to inhale that wonderful chemical in the air, not that he knew what a chemical was, but he was tired, so he didn't care. He was about to take another gulp when something sounded above him, and it didn't feel natural. Another rustle from the tree line above put him on instant alert when he heard another rustle that was eerily close. A growl and a line of drool landing on his shoulder was all it took to give him a pale complexion. Dreading the outcome and mentally kicking himself for such a reflex move, Naruto looked up and groaned. A humanoid-looking thing was looking at him hungrily, licking his lips in anticipation. He seemed monster-like, with pointed ears and red eyes that were shifting from normal round irises to slit-like irises. Suddenly, the monster roared and lunged at Naruto. Oh, you have got to be kidding me, Naruto said loudly and bolted from his resting spot. Once again, he took off running into the woods, the demonic monster behind him. Not noticing that he was climbing higher and higher, Naruto briefly wondered whether or not he should work out more when he started to get winded from the lack of air. He wasn't like this whenever he climbed the monument, and that was pretty high. Wherever this was, he wasn't on Konoha territory anymore. He had no time to think on it though, that crazy monster was still after him. Dashing through the rocky path in the unfamiliar area, Naruto was suddenly pulled up by the collar of his shirt by a surprisingly strong slender arm onto a higher path. Confused, but relieved at the same time, Naruto saw the monster-like thing look for him before rounding the corner of the path he was on. He turned to see his savior only to stare in confusion as he saw a young teenage woman with black hair and a bikini that didn't seem to leave any part of her body it was covering with a hint of breathing room. He could tell that the girl was a teenager due to the developing on her chest. A kimono was covering her back and her hair was wet, so Naruto concluded that she must have been taking a bath or something when she saw him. "Are you alright?" the girl asked, her eyes looking playful. If Naruto didn't know any better, he would say that she was ogling him. Naruto nodded. It was only polite to respond to his savior. The girl giggled and helped him stand, and Naruto could only nod dumbly as she did so. Her words at this point should have been a warning sign, but his thought process was muddled somehow. Naruto didn't seem to mind that too much though. I haven't had it in a long time. I like him young." The girl giggled and started to lure him to a secluded area. Naruto's instincts were dulled as he followed her. It was almost as if she had him under a spell. A spell that he wouldn't mind being under forever though, although he couldn't reason why that was though. Soon after, he lazily noticed where he was being led to. At first, he thought it was some sort of house, but the girl was leading him to a cavern of all places. It was weird, Naruto thought, but it didn't matter to him at all. The girl smiled as she led him to a bed of sorts within the cavern. It really did seem that this was her home, Naruto thought as his glazed-over eyes were roaming over the girl's body. Something that delighted the girl to no end. "I just love being appreciated. Now hold still, I am going to make you a man soon enough." The girl removed her kimono, and that almost sounded the red alert alarms in his head if his brain wasn't somewhere else at the moment. When the girl removed the robe, 2 wings sprouted almost magically from her back. Naruto was sure that those wings weren't supposed to be there, and somehow, he noticed, the black hair on the girl's head seemed to gloss over, making it even darker if that was possible. The girl had a thoughtful frown while all of this was going on, as if she was perplexed about something. "It's strange though, I didn't even make an effort to be visible. I don't think I ever had to snag something this easy before." The girl giggled and straddled the boy. With a sultry smile, she began to remove her top so agonizingly slow for Naruto even though he didn't know why. Just before she was to remove the cloth before her budding, she kicked off from Naruto roughly, all the while snarling in an unladylike manner. During the process, Naruto's senses woke up from the spell she put him under, and his mind was racing to comprehend what the hell had just happened. He was trying to find out why he found himself in a strange place far from the cliff he entered this strange world from Konoha. The last he could remember was that something pulled him out of the way, and that was it. When he looked around his new surroundings, he gazed upon the debacle that was making so much noise. Suffice to say, it wasn't what you saw every day. A tiny girl in a blue bodysuit with wings that were much smaller than the larger, more imposing winged girl was facing off against the bigger girl in the fiercest glare match he hadn't seen since Ino and Sakura's fight a few weeks back. The fight which broke their friendship was all about the pettiest thing if he could recall correctly. That was it. He recalled it was about that one boy Sasuke Uchiha. A noise much like an unsheathing of a sword caused him to turn away from that stray thought. Naruto watched on with interest as the larger girl swiped at the tiny girl with enlarged nails, something that he didn't notice before. "Arg! How dare you ruin my plaything! You pixies always do this!" the winged girl growled out. The tiny girl, a pixie, smiled mischievously. To Naruto, he believed that he was seeing Ino and Sakura all over again. Only in different sizes and voices. Hee. Now, we can't have our sacrifice be defiled by your schemes." The pixie laughed haughtily at the fuming girl, while Naruto got a feeling of depression. For a minute there, he thought he was saved. But of course, he was slated to be a sacrifice. During his thoughts, the 2 women, he supposed they were that, started to speak in weird chants and gathered some intense light in their hands before calling out some sort of weird jutsu. The resulting power of these jutsu was something he had never seen that before, at least not anything ninja were willing to use in front of him. The intensity of these jutsu made his eyes water and also widen comically as the tiny girl was going head to head in raw power against the bigger girl. With each cast or throw, each jutsu was either being deflected, cancelled with a jutsu of equal power, or just being dodged. After a display of pure power from this fight, an unknown sense alerted him to another presence. His eyes traveled to the exit of the cave that winged girl led him to, and he saw a most peculiar figure. A cat. What got Naruto unnerved that the cat had this subtle aura of confidence that the cat kept showing off while he strutted around the battlefield, looking at the battle between the 2 demons much like an opponent views a weaker opponent, like an annoyance. Well, that and the fact that the cat was talking to him. "Come on, let's leave these demons alone," the cat ordered, as if used to commanding people. Naruto wasn't going to argue with a talking cat who can obviously shrug off the light show the girls were showing off. Picking himself up, Naruto started to follow the cat out of the cave before a shout of indignation came from behind him. Both the cat and Naruto turned to see the girls glaring at both him and the cat. By the looks on their faces and lack of hostility between them, Naruto figured that they formed a truce in order to capture their target lover/sacrifice. "Oh, That cat is interfering again. I won't let them get away. Get them, Lilim! The pixie shouted to the winged girl demon, Lilim. Lilim glared at the impudence of the trash that would dare order her around. You do not order me around. I'll catch him and have my way with him, you lowly pixie. Lilim growled back as she started to charge a yellow light in her hands before holding it in one hand outstretched toward the duo. Naruto noticed that the cat was tensing up and he felt wary about how to dodge such a display of power from the girl's hands. Zio! Lilim cried before throwing the technique at them like a ball. It missed a few feet in front of them, but the shout of warning from the cat to dodge the ball's direction proved useful as the ball of yellow energy expanded like lightning jutsu in a straight line for them. Naruto barely missed the energy from zapping him like a lightning rod by falling on his butt trying to dodge it. After the ball of lightning, Zio, dissipated, the cat spoke to Naruto. You boy, can you fight? The cat said to the bewildered boy. He knew something about fighting, but it was mostly improvised brawling. A little. I don't know anything professional, though. He was cut off by the cat telling him to dodge a green ball of energy thrown near them that expanded into a mini tornado of sorts. He was further confounded that the talking cat threw a weapon at him somehow. Use that. It isn't a sword, but it'll help you against these two. Naruto was confused at the cat's words. He was no weapons expert or nothing, but this thing that was thrown at his feet really did look like a sword. Not wanting to explain, the cat shouted at the boy, feeling a familiar migraine sport on his temple. You'll see what I mean. Now start swinging. The cat ordered as the two demons became fiercer with the sight of the weapon. As soon as Naruto gripped the sword that isn't a sword, he felt something light up within his mind. It was almost as if he unlocked a memory of himself using a weapon such as this, but there was no possible way, was there? The cat that was with him stood silently to the side. It was as he thought. That boy, I thought I would never see another one in my time as a dweller in this world. Acting on his new instincts, Naruto rushed toward the startled pixie who didn't expect such a performance with the way the boy was acting earlier. She screamed in pain as the sword turned into an axe made of blue energy, and cut her cleanly in two from the mid-waist down. She was shaking as if her very soul was self-destructing, but didn't part without any words. No way! There wasn't supposed to be another one of them here. Arf! The tiny girl screamed out as she exploded in a white light, and what looked like blood covered her fading corpse. The Lilim girl didn't look fazed by her battle partner's grisly death, and instead started to charge up another Zio ball to throw at Naruto, who was deemed too dangerous to seduce by her standards. She wanted it, sure, but only from some unsuspecting and defenseless sap. The cat spoke up again, this time in warning. Watch out, boy, she's going to mutate that Zio spell into its area counterpart, Mazio. End this quickly, or you're finished. The cat shouted orders to Naruto, who began running toward the Lilim. You're through, boy. Mazio! Lilim shouted as she threw the pulsing yellow sphere at Naruto, who caught it fully in the chest. The cat looked away, shaking its head in shame that the boy didn't react in time to dodge the harmful spell. The cat saw how the spell worked out dozens of times. The boy would stand still in shock as the spell fried all of his nerves throughout the body, making for a paralyzed target. The sudden lack of nerve functions would eventually lead to a total body shutdown, making the victim a motionless vegetable. The boy screamed in agony as the spell was taking effect. He was bathed in a yellow light from the spell as it worked its intentions throughout his body until he landed in a heap, his sword dropped by his side. Something felt off to the cat though, then his eyes widened in realization. What happened next wasn't to anyone's expectation, especially not to the Lilim. Naruto suddenly vanished in a puff of smoke. What? What happened to boy? Lilim shouted as she scanned the area for the corpse of the boy she was sure she fried. The cat didn't say anything, but its eyes darted above as he saw something glinting in the dark. Up here, hag! Naruto's voice sounded from above as he brought the sword down on the unsuspecting demon while holding it like an axe. The sword once again glowed with a blue energy in the form of an axe blade as he swung it downwards toward the stunned demon girl. A large gash tore through her mid-upper body and blood sprayed on contact with the magical sword. The girl screamed in agonizing pain as she tried to fly away from the demon swordsman masquerading as a boy in front of her. But it was not to be as the cat shouted something at Naruto, who nodded and stabbed the fleeing demon through the stomach and into the wall behind her. A loud gasp and a crunching sound of bones being stabbed through to the wall was heard. Lilim stared at the sword going through her stomach and the widened eyes of her slayer before laughing weakly at the scene. I guess this is it for me. Lilim paused to cough up blood that was sure to drown her before long. Naruto could only stare wide-eyed at the scene and tried to pull the sword out of her, but the cat ordered him not to. Why? The boy shouted at the cat. The cat could only stare at the dying demon as an answer. I was right about you. You were going to be such a fine man for my offspring if I succeeded. Lilim took a few desperate gasps of air. Her vision was growing darker with each breath. It looks like this world isn't going to hell after all. If a devil summoner has arisen now, shame though. I would have loved to be your demon after all. I honestly thought I could love you. Lilim gasped one last time before exploding in a darker light than her fairy partner, signaling her end on her life. Naruto could only stare in disbelief at her confession and the weight that he had just taken 2 lives, and he wasn't even a graduate from the academy yet. The pressure made his knees weak and he fell on them, but made no sign that he even knew he did it. The cat stared at the boy with complete neutrality. On one hand, this was probably the state the world has come to, since he could see that taking lives for the first time was hard on some people. On the other hand, the last time he checked, this world was currently using children to carry out assassinations. When he finished thinking about it, the cat could only do one thing it could do. It worked on his last pupil/partner, so it should work on him. He pounced on the boy's arm, raised his paw against it, and scratched the boy's arm in one fell swoop with a sharp claw, drawing blood and a pained hiss from the boy. Now that he had his attention, the cat spoke harshly to the boy. Listen up, boy. You must never feel pity for your enemies, ever. They were there to get you, to kill you. If you hadn't done what you had to, you would be raped by that Lilim or offered as a sacrifice to that insane pixie's god. Now wake up, Baka. The cat stated to a flinching Naruto. No matter how sorry he felt for those demon-like creatures, he knew that the cat was right. It was them or him, and today he chose himself. That made the pain and shock of killing go away a little, actually. The cat straightened up and climbed aboard Naruto's shoulder and spoke softly into the boy's ear. I haven't seen so much talent with an axe-type sword in a very long while. In fact, the only one who showed this much talent was another apprentice I had back when I was alive. The cat stated, and Naruto was startled. This cat was a ghost cat? You're a ghost? Naruto started to freak out badly. He hated ghosts. The cat rolled his eyes and spoke bluntly. Yes, I am a ghost, but the only ghost in this area that saved your life. The cat put pressure on its legs as it prepared to jump off the boy's shoulder. My name is Guto, and I am one of the famous overseers to every swordsman who took up the name Reitokuzunoha. I was one of the few members of the Yatagarasu who survived the Great Destruction nearly a millennium ago, and instead lived my natural and supernatural life training other potentially gifted people the way of the sword. The cat, Guto, paused before continuing. Very few ever had the privilege of doing combat the way you did against those demons. Most of my apprentices couldn't even see the outline of any demon at all. However, you have a talent that wasn't seen since the 14th took the mantle of Reidu. I am here to train that talent before it disappears completely from this world. Guto paced around the empty cave and started to look around the perimeter of the cave before nodding his head. This will do nicely. Okay, listen up, boy. I have decided for you to train that talent of yours and become the world's newest devil summoner. You will sleep here, eat here, and train here as I cram nearly 1,000 years of Yatagarasu knowledge into your head to prepare you into becoming this world's defender. Naruto sputtered as he was trying to get a word in the cat's declaration of his life. Why Taminit? I'm training to become a ninja, so that I can become the Hokage. He finally shouted out to the planning Guto. The cat looked at him weirdly. A ninja? A ninja? A Hokage? Has civilization turned back so greatly that it became a folklore fairy tale world? There is no such thing as a real ninja, not anymore. The closest to being ninja assassins are the Tsukigata, and they died off centuries ago. These people are fallacies of ninja, with their flashy jutsu and large explosions of the mag that they call chakra. I will teach you the proper way to use the power that the gods haven't given you, even though you use chakra than mag. Since it's so familiar, we can use the standard lesson plans of the Nameless Shrine's training grounds to train you in your swordplay. How am I gonna get home? Naruto interrupted Guto's planning. Guto only stared at the boy. He really wanted this Hokage title. What good will going back to you, boy? You don't seem to be well liked, given those injuries that have healed over your body. Guto said as he was looking over Naruto's body, where his eyes could see various healed wounds and gashes through his clothing. Naruto's eyes widened and looked over his clothing and wondered how could this cat see that. How can you do that? Naruto asked, freaked out by Guto's analysis of his physical history. Guto scoffed. This is basic stuff I've been doing for decades. I don't even need to use anything advanced to see that a few more hits in certain areas will leave you disabled forever. If you go back now you may never reach your dream of Hokage. Guto said seriously at Naruto, whose eyes widened at the declaration. Naruto sputtered as his wild hair covered his eyes. He looked downward as he weighed his options. Goto turned and continued his plans for the newest recruit. Good. Now, in order to train EFF, he was cut off by a fuming Naruto. Screw you, you alley cat! He shouted and effectively shut the cat up. Goto was shocked at his rebellious charge and looked over his words before getting ticked off. Hey! Stop calling me that! I am no alley cat! Goto glared at his charge and he glared back just the same. I don't care for anyone telling what I can't do. If I want to be Hokage, then I'll damn try my hardest. Even if I lose both my arms and legs. Naruto shouted, his dream threatened by Goto's sharp words. Goto glared harder at the boy. Great. He had another idiot for an apprentice. It's becoming a fad lately too. I have idiots for apprentices. Listen up, you baka. I'm not telling you that you can't be Hokage someday. I'm telling you that if you go back now, you are at risk of being passed over of being a Hokage. I am here to teach your hard-headed brain the skills, the techniques and the social skills that come with being a devil summoner. Use those skills and you'll become your Hokage dream, if not better. Goto was about to continue when he felt several presences behind the boy. It looked like his improvised training ground wasn't completely empty after all. Boy, how big is your home? Goto asked of Naruto, who felt his instincts flare up. It's kinda big. Why? He asked, looking around and gripping his magical sword. We are going to your home and practicing your skills there, for now we have to retreat. We aren't alone and we are nowhere near skilled enough to beat these demons alone. Goto answered as he could see the demons more clearly. They weren't anything stronger than your usual demons here, but they were too tough for his charge for now. Let's go, boy, it's too dangerous to fight now, Goto said as he went toward the exit. Naruto followed soon afterwards and a few moments later, several demons were looking confusedly at their retreat. One of the demons, a blue cap-wearing thing made of snow, looked at its brother, a pumpkin-faced demon, and said only one thing. He-ho? Somehow, it was the work of magic, Naruto concluded as he was instantly led back to the forests where the Hokage monument was at. The only thing that was different was that he held a magical sword that acted like an axe and a cat that seemed to fade through somehow. So this is Konoha. It's sure looking a lot like Tsukigata village, the see-through cat commented before perching on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto was surprised that the cat could feel just as heavy as a real live cat even though he was a ghost. I am in this form because there is little mag energy in this village. No doubt because of this chakra dominance that is over this region. It will be a little tough, but you'll manage to be a decent fighter with time if we train here. Goto paused as he looked in the immediate area for any demon signatures. Boy, you have to make sure that you practice everything I tell you with precision every day. You may go to this ninja academy, but know that my teachings will make you more a ninja than any teacher there will teach you to. You will be sneaky, a professional ninja, like the days of old. We will rest for today. Your combat crash course today should fulfill your day's training. Rest up, for we have a full day tomorrow, Goto said as he switched from shoulder to the top of the boy's head. Lead me to your home, boy. We will talk about your new path in life there, Goto said from the top of Naruto's head. My name is Naruto, you alley cat. Ow! Naruto growled out as the cat scratched his head sharply. Don't call me alley cat. The hidden Unbu agent could only sweat drop as the boy was somehow injuring himself in a cat fashion. It was almost as if he had an actual cat scratching him. If there was one thing he dreaded about going to the academy, it was class time with this particular teacher. It could only be described as mind-numbingly boring, Naruto thought as he listened into yet another of his teacher's lessons on ninja history. The man was a bespectacled man who seemed to be just as bored as the students were during the lesson. It wasn't like this though. Naruto remembered that he was so psyched when he saw the Ninja Academy for the first time 5 years ago. The first day didn't disappoint either, since they all got a tour of the academy's impressive facilities. It showed older academy students training in all forms of weapons like kunai, and ranged weaponry such as bows and shuriken. Then they were told how they were going to be trained in both knowledge and weapons, a lot of the boys, and strangely one girl was sold on the notion of weapons alone at that point, and how they were going to be respectable figures of society, as their defenders. Nowadays he thought that it wasn't at all it was cracked up to be. Very few days were actually used on the training grounds that the academy owned, and half that precious time was used on the history of the shinobi. He was up for a little history, as Goto-sensei, his cat swordplay teacher, always reminded him that the lessons of the past will always open a window of victory for the future. However, seeing the dietary routine of the first Hokage told him that it belonged on a gossip vine than a history textbook. As the teacher droned on, Naruto took the distraction to eye his classmates. It didn't take him long to recognize his peers as they were either snoring, out of their minds, or paying fierce attention to the lesson like it was a lifeline. He could only remember a few names from the bunch, most of them clan heirs. If he didn't know any better, he would have sworn that they were something important to a story plot, somehow like the characters of the Jammin Ninja manga he reads sometimes. He looked at some of the cast of heirs that were somewhat listening to the lesson. The first one he spied on was the Inuzuka heir, Kiba. He wasn't the smartest kid in the world, but according to the locals, his family were unrivaled using dog/wolf-like senses in combat. From what little he gleaned in his basic human anatomy lessons, Kiba's one weakness is his primary inheritance, the heightened hearing and sight that the Inuzuka was famous for. Give a certain frequency, and they are down for the count. Thankfully, there aren't many jutsu that uses sound for a base, so the Inuzuka felt little resistance to regular combat. Looking to his right from the snoring Inuzuka, Naruto spied the snoozing Shikamaru Nara. He was possibly the laziest student in the entire school, but his strategies when fully focused could be something only legends could devise. However, the rate of such strategies occurring would be as likely a yellow stone containing a powerful electric shock. He would have spied on others, but the bell rang signaling the end of class. As he strode outside, he spotted the two girls who stood very vividly in his memories. Sakura Haruna was a girl that was very shy until she met her rival, Ino. They were best friends before they grew into the age where boys were cute and thoughts of marriage drifted into their heads. Their target? Sasuke Uchiha. It didn't help any other male's case that the boy had the cliché tragic past, the dark hair and the goal that could somehow be directed and cured by every girl that came into range and had a rosy view of their world. Since that day, everything changed, and sometimes change didn't mean maturity. Sakura changed drastically from her former shyness. She was now outgoing, had long hair, and was competing to be Sasuke's #1 fan. It was widely believed that she joined the academy in an effort to be close to the Uchiha survivor. She must have believed that grades meant something to the boy because her efforts in books and written assignments went above and beyond the grading requirements, making her one of the brightest academy students on paper. Her efforts physically were another story. Her studious efforts somehow overshadowed her bare minimum efforts in the physical portion of the academy criteria. It was somehow rumored that the Uchiha boy wanted a good wife that was both beautiful and well-mannered. Acting on the rumor, the girls in the year older than the boy, and the girls in the same age and 1 year younger declined from the skills that the kunoichi standard recommended. The academy had shocking reports that the numbers of combat-ready kunoichi lowered the year that Sasuke attended. Ino Yamanaka was similar, but the kunoichi standard build wasn't recommended for her as her strengths were better suited as an interrogation officer, as most of her clan is stationed in. She was the heir to the Yamanaka clan, a group of mind-walking individuals that steal data, possess bodies, and can technically rule the world by taking over the right people. Despite all that, Ino was a relatively able and healthy girl, a rarity in the female academy graduates. She was usually the first to finish the physical runs that the academy gives weekly. In fact, she was basically the mirror darkly of Sakura. She wasn't the smartest kunoichi, the first being Sakura, but she could outlast most of her peers in spar battles via stamina. That isn't to say that she was the perfect kunoichi. She was still a contender in being the future mate to Sasuke Uchiha, and her physique was nearly thin enough to be a defunct kunoichi that was ill and bedridden. Naruto guessed that if the rumor for being a perfectly bodied wife for the great Uchiha survivor was a thin wafer waffle, then who was he to say otherwise? Maybe the tastes of the screwball Uchiha included wafer wives? Naruto shook his head. Who cared what the Uchiha wanted? He stopped his thought train. He had to realize just now that practically everyone who wanted the Uchiha clan restored cared, and those that put all their hopes and expectations for the boy to shell out enough offspring to revitalize the Uchiha police force cared. The Uchiha, who once protected the city of Konoha before they were wiped out in one night by an assailant. He didn't know anyone who could have that kind of power, but it must have been someone unexpected that wiped them out. He tried asking the old man, but he was silent as stone on the matter. He stopped asking when the old man didn't budge on the matter, and life went on. As he passed by the two girls bickering when he overheard something that nearly caused him to stumble. "Yeah, right. There is no such thing as ghosts," Sakura said disbelieving, and in a tone that said what the hell was she doing with this pig? Ino looked like she was about to be ill, if what the tone of voice was going by. Ino was a gossip by heart though, and she loved talking about things that people didn't want anyone else to hear about. "I wouldn't be talking to you if it wasn't so juicy. I saw a ghost. It was of a cat." At that point, both girls saw Naruto stumble but recover immediately. Both girls rolled their eyes and were just thinking baka. To Naruto though, things more important than what two girls thought of him arose. Naruto had to find his teacher and tell him of this new development. Neither Ino or Sakura didn't notice that Naruto left at a quicker pace than normal as they started another fight over their precious Sasuke-kun. 3 years ago, Naruto Uzumaki was afraid of the hateful glares that the boy experienced when he went into the civilian marketplace. This forced the old man to change the living areas of the boy, since there was always the fear that some insane group of people will try something idiotic like getting a mob and attacking the boy's home, or even attacking the boy believing he was the demon. Utter lunacy, but still possible. Returning to his shabby-looking apartment in his living area, Naruto opened the door to a rather modernized home. It came up to the old man that in order to hide Naruto from the jealousy that will surely come with the already hateful glares, he had to make it look on the outside a housing so unbelievably bad, it wouldn't even make a poor, destitute homeless person desire to live here. Hence, the birth of the poor housing that Naruto lived in. Naruto thought it could go without the smell, but who was he to ask? He had this building practically all to himself, and the few who tried to sneak in here for a quick room for anything were escorted out by the random Umbu agent that was assigned to watch over him. After putting away the things the academy needed for the day near a corner in the room, Naruto went into the kitchen and rummaged around for something to eat. There wasn't much choice since his fridge held only a half-full carton of milk and some cold ramen. Naruto wasn't one to waste food, let alone ramen, which he would never throw away, for any reason. After drinking from the carton of milk, he closed the door and turned to see Gudo staring at him, as if waiting for him. "You really should check your expiration dates on your food. You just drank half-spoiled milk," he said simply to the shocked boy, who opened the fridge door and checked the date. Naruto paled. That damn alley cat was right. Gudo sighed at the inattentiveness of his apprentice, and strode over to the panicking boy. "Listen up, this provides a good lesson on checking your food for any poisons, or in this case, expiration dates. If you had a healing demon with you, that demon could cast Pasamudi on you to remove that poison out of your system. But since you don't even know how to talk to a demon without it scratching your eyes out, you'll have to ride it out." Naruto glared at the cat for making the situation so freaking clear. He could already feel his insides rumble with the rotten milk in protest. Groaning, Naruto made for his bathroom where he would spend most of the afternoon. Later on in the evening, under the cover of night, Gudo began his lessons on Naruto's swordplay. The sword that Naruto used in combat several days prior was hanging on a shelf inside a closet that Naruto reserved for special stuff. He was currently trying to use a regular sword that Gudo somehow acquired for their nightly lessons. It wasn't too heavy for the child, but it sometimes unbalanced the kid during some of the more tougher chains of sword movements. You don't seem to have the balance to use a regular sword. I wonder if an axe is what you excel at?" Gudo wondered to himself as he watched Naruto stumble for the 8th time on a sequenced sword movement. Naruto declared that he would master the sword in no time, and Gudo believed him, but maybe it's the spirit of the axe inside the sword that makes him so skillful in the combat zone. Unfortunately, Gudo can only recover one type of spirit sword every month or so, since the preparation for the journey where he kept them takes nearly a month to plan, even if he knew where he put them. He was curious to what kinds of weapons that Naruto can wield with ease, and what weapons that Naruto would have the skill of a baby with a bomb for a toy. "Alright Naruto, you can stop. I think I might know what your weakness in the routine is. In order to fix that, I'll have to retrieve an axe for you to wield and see what you can do with that," Gudo said to a slightly disappointed Naruto, who thought he could use this sword just as well as that spirit sword he had locked up in his special closet. "I'll end the practice here and move on to my next lesson, which involves you talking to demons," Gudo said to a sullen Naruto, who still felt a small twinge of guilt for taking out those 2 demons. "You must know that there are demons who would join your side for a variety of things. The most common exchange is your offering of blood or stamina to the creature, among other things. Some take money, and some just need a good conversation to join your cause. However, since the technology that the Yatagarasu used to store demons were lost during the Great Destruction, I've had to gather parts from natural resources in order to makeshift one of our storing devices. I am almost finished with reconstructing one, so you'll be able to test one out on the field soon." Gudo finished to an attentive Naruto, who got over his little bout of guilt. "What happens if you try to talk to a demon without this device ready?" he asked. Gudo nodded. His charge may be a blockhead, but he knew what questions to ask sometimes. "Usually they go away, disappointed in not being able to join you. There are some who take it the wrong way and go holy hell on you for insulting them. Usually a beat down of the demon is required for them to learn their place." Gudo was about to continue when he felt a foreign presence hiding in the tree-line area of Naruto's home. Naruto must have noticed it too, since he was also looking at the same direction he was. "I know you're there, come out!" Gudo barked out his demand. Naruto held his sword at the ready for combat, should the need arise. What came out made Gudo frown in confusion and Naruto go white as a sheet. It was the ghost girl. The ghostly girl seemed to be nervous at being found out, but it looked like she was observing Naruto for quite a long time now, as she wasn't so much afraid of him than she was of Guto. This is Guto began, but Naruto cut him off. It's the ghost girl. I thought ghosts couldn't leave their haunting areas. I'm scared. Naruto was running around in circles around the area, as if that could repel the giggling girl. Guto sighed, blockhead indeed. Guto landed on Naruto's head with expert timing and stopped him by scratching the head of the boy, who hissed in pain again. Ow, that hurts. Naruto complained as he tenderly touched the wound that the cat gave him. The girl, concerned for the pain that Naruto was going through, began chanting something while touching the stiff Naruto, who was stock still at a girl, ghost or real, touched him so familiarly. A few more chants and Naruto's wounds began to heal faster than he would regularly heal, and that was saying something. His wounds, mostly small bumps and bruises, were almost immediately healed up before an hour has passed. Just as I thought. She didn't have the right type, but she's definitely one of the Tenchi clan, Guto said aloud. The ghostly girl laughed melodically and nodded, while Naruto was perplexed at this info. Who were the Tenchi clan? Was it one of the lower civilian clans or something? What's a Tenchi clan? He voiced his question. Guto looked at the girl before continuing. We have several demons categorized by element, alignment, and what kind of clan they belong in. For example, Ajitide and Feng Huang are clan brothers because they belong to the Reicho clan. Those demons are mostly winged demons, resembling birds. Guto paused before fishing up. She's still relatively young, but she belongs to the Tenchi clan. I had some inkling of what she was, but I believe in absolute certainty that she is an angel. Naruto was stunned. He's actually seeing a real angel for the first time. Wow! You're an angel? He asked the smiling girl, who giggled and nodded happily. Guto watched the scene a little more before speaking again. According to our lore, every person on the planet has one angel that guides their actions and protects them from various evils. I think this may be your personal guardian angel. Guto paused and got an idea from it. You, angel! He waited until the girl was paying attention to him. Guto smiled internally. This was perfect. How would you like to be Naruto's first demon partner? He asked of the girl, who nodded and turned to face a startled Naruto. Guto turned a moment later as well. Okay, Naruto, this plays right into our lesson plans. This angel is already loyal to you, so it would be easier to convince her to join you than other demons. However, she isn't fully ready to fight at your side, and this is where our next lesson begins. The art of negotiation. I've collected data from the 14th, and for the most part, demons require some form of blood payment, or would like money in exchange for a contract with the summoner. I'll hand you some money that I've acquired, and you use that to convince this angel to fight for you. Guto threw by mouth to Naruto a small bag of coins as he finished his explanation. Begin! Guto ordered his disciple. Naruto nodded and faced the young angel. When he made eye contact with her, however, time seemed to freeze. When he turned around, he saw that everything but him and the angel stopped moving. A slight shuffling of the angel told Naruto that he should pay attention to her and not the surroundings. Naruto blushed in embarrassment and rubbed the back of his head with one arm. Ah. Sorry about that, first time, hee. He laughed nervously. The angel smiled in response and nodded. He never heard her speak, so he was startled by the voice that came out of the girl. Hi. I heard from that cat that you want me to be your demon? The angel asked. Her voice quite melodious. Naruto figured since she was a demon, her voice would be more deep, like a regular demon. Why, yes, sorry, I'm a bit nervous, Naruto admitted to the girl. You might want to stand a bit straighter, or else demons will find that offensive and attack you. I'm sure you don't want that, do you? Angel asked the boy, who nodded at the advice. Okay, like this? Naruto straightened his back. Angel shook his head. It's too stiff, makes you look fake. There are some demons like Okinanushi who like that kind of thing, but mostly a straighter back means respect to most demons. The angel lectured as she pushed Naruto's back into a more manly pose. A far outcry from the slouch that Naruto was so accustomed to. Okay. Now this is a respectable pose. Let's continue. The angel clapped her hands at her soon-to-be master's new pose. Now, here comes the more critical part, the terms of servitude. The angel said as she stood in a thinking pose, her hand cupping her tiny chin. Naruto thought she looked cute, like a chibi trying to do a serious thinking pose. I want some of your blood, to satisfy my bloodlust. The angel asked of Naruto, who was shocked and pale. Was this angel a vampire in disguise? What? Aren't angels like holy beings? They don't like drinking blood, do they? Naruto asked of the giggling girl. We may be angels, but every demon you ask an alliance with will ask for a bit of blood of their potential summoner. Fortunately for you, I only require a tiny bit of blood in order to satisfy my bloodlust for a lifetime," Angel explained to an understanding Naruto. "How much blood do you need?" he asked of the girl. Angel smiled. Her master wasn't foolhardy and gave up his energy foolishly. He was new, but he had survival instincts that would have rivaled Master Uriel. "Just cut your palm open and drop a few drops of blood on my hands," Angel told the boy as she cupped her hands in front of the boy. Naruto nodded and took out his sword. He cut his palm and shook a tiny amount of blood onto her cupped hands. Naruto was surprised that his hand had healed quickly after the cut, and didn't notice the angel drink his blood almost messily. When he turned back to the angel, he could see no trace of his blood anywhere on the girl. It was almost as if it was licked clean. Naruto mentally shrugged. It was probably a demon thing. The angel smiled once again in satisfaction. It seemed that he fulfilled her requirements, but... "Oh yes, I have one other request," the angel said of Naruto. Naruto could almost guess what it was and was fingering the pouch of coins carefully. "What is it?" The angel started looking around and twiddling her fingers almost cutely. "I kinda have a sweet tooth, but there isn't many people who would give up money for such a thing, so can I have that pouch of money?" She smiled almost childlike and comically. Naruto sighed. He was right on the money literally. He tossed the small pouch of money as the angel cheered at the acquiescence of her request and almost hugged the pouch at her plans to buy all the candy she could. "Okay. I think that's enough, I'm ready to go with you." She smiled and pulled out a rectangular piece of paper to hand to a confused Naruto. "Here's my business card. I feel like such a grown-up." The angel laughed as Naruto looked for a place to store his new business card. He found it odd, but it's a demon thing, he reminded himself. Good job, Naruto. You have successfully recruited this angel. Now, her hazy figure will fade away, allowing you to see her unique form. Gudo commented as what he said came to be. The angel started to solidify her ghostly form, and both Naruto and Gudo were surprised to see the girl's form. Where there would usually be a blue-haired or blonde-haired angel, this one had fiery red hair and her eyes were aquatic blue. She had a confident face and her posture seemed like she would bolt at any second from a prank or two that she caused. Her wings were still the same length though. She was certainly unique, Gudo thought to himself. "Do you have a name, Angel-chan?" Naruto asked of the girl, who pondered. "I might have had one when I was alive, but since we are all mass assigned to guard people, some angels forget their previous identities. I still remember some of it though. It was something like Kushi something or other." Naruto instinctively called out a name from somewhere in the recesses of his mind. It might have been a lost memory. "Kushina?" he asked, and the angel seemed to think on it before nodding. "Yeah, I think that was my name, Kushina." The angel turned to Naruto and stuck out her hand to shake his. "My name is Kushina, and I'm your partner." She grinned in a way that made Gudo's eyes widen. There is no way could she really be? Naruto didn't seem to see the similarities and shook her hand enthusiastically. "My name's Naruto Uzumaki, do you like ramen?" he asked Kushina, who nodded very happily. "I love ramen. How did you know?" she exclaimed to a grinning Naruto. "I think we'll get along just fine. I know a great place, come on," he said as he pulled Kushina's hand to his favorite place in the world, Ichiraku's ramen. "Hold it, Naruto," Gudo called out. Naruto and Kushina turned to the cat in confusion. "While you can see her, Naruto, other people can't. Those who are spiritually sensitive like you are can see them fully, but normal people cannot. Don't you think it will get awkward if you order 2 bowls of ramen for someone who isn't there?" Gudo pointed out and Kushina nodded in agreement. Naruto, however, grinned. "You haven't seen me eat ramen, have you?" Naruto chuckled and Gudo got the feeling that he was going to see something that will haunt his dreams forever. While the trio were witnessing Naruto's talent, something sinister was happening elsewhere. A girl was running away in fear of something that wasn't there. She came across the slain bodies of her parents, and a low growl told her that the thing spotted her. She turned over trash cans and went through the deserted roads of nighttime Konoha in order to evade whatever was chasing her. Her luck ended, however, as she was cornered by a dead end in Konoha's shopping district. Looking in fear, she screamed as a green humanoid monster stalked slowly to her. The monster growled hungrily, splotches of blood were on his mouth, and the girl stared horrified that her parents' blood was on this freak. She screamed loudly as the monster pounced on her, and her screams of terror slowly faded as the monster ended her life. Her body wasn't found till the next morning by a horrified shopkeeper, who found her remains and her face in absolute terror. "I did How horrible! These were the chatters that filled the student hallways when Naruto entered the academy a couple of days after meeting Kushina, his angel demon partner. She was fine with the fact that there wasn't a device to store her ready yet and spent her time flying around the village. She would always take a trip to the grocery store to satisfy her very sweet addiction to candy. Naruto was hearing snippets of the chatter and wondered what was going on. To rile up the school like this, it was big at least. As Naruto entered his classroom, he was waved at by Ino. Why would she talk to him? He didn't know. She probably wanted to gossip what was going on. Hey Naruto, listen to this. Ino began. Naruto's intuition was right and won again. She just wanted to spread the news. What is it? Naruto asked. He was curious about the chatter too. Ino looked around and whispered in his ear. Yumiko's dead. They found her body yesterday. Ino gushed out the news, and Naruto was shocked at the news. One of their classmates was dead? Yumiko Agabashi was a student in Naruto's year and wasn't one to stand out, preferring to blend into the crowd. She was in the middle range in their tests, but the sudden news of her death stunned many of those who knew her and didn't, so the rumors flew. Before Naruto could ask Ino on what else happened to their classmate, their teacher entered the classroom. Okay, settle down now. We have a lesson to begin, the teacher said to the rowdy students. While some quieted immediately, there were still a few students chattering about the rumors. I said settle down. We are all shocked about the news of Yumiko, but we must move on. Let's begin where we left off. Sandame's rise to the seat of Hokage. Naruto tuned out the lesson and tried to get some more info on the truth of the rumor. His only option was Ino, who sat in the row in front of him. Naruto took out some paper and scribbled down a note before tossing it to the girl. It landed with a plop on the girl's head before landing on her lap. Ino looked around ticked off, but read the note from Naruto. She glared a bit for ruining her attention to the history lesson, but scribbled back a reply and tossed it to a waiting Naruto. I'll tell you after school. Meet me behind the main building. Ino. Naruto nodded to an unseen Ino, who turned back to the lesson. He'll just have to be patient and learn the news from her later. While Naruto was at school, Goto and Kushina were examining the body of the slain girl in the Konoha hospital. Kushina brought the matter to Goto as she overheard some gossiping housewives while walking through the shopping district. Her ears burned hot at the news and she flew back, naturally invisible to humans. All the way to Goto, the cat in Naruto's home. Since they are naturally invisible to the human eye, they had no trouble slipping past the security and looking for the girl. They were in luck that the corpse was still in the operating table, in the middle of an autopsy from what the pair saw. They waited until the staff left for a break in order to investigate the body, at least what was left of it. The horror-frozen face was relaxed into a sleeping face in order to stop the unnerving of the doctors performing the procedure, but the damage from her mysterious death was still there, but covered by a blue sheet. The doctors were in the middle of the autopsy and left a portion of the sheet open to show the wounds of the girl. The girl had gaping wounds all over the abdomen area as if being stabbed repeatedly through the stomach. The area around the throat was ripped off and what looked like chewed on by a fong or so. Some of her organs were missing as well. Her heart, her stomach and her pancreas were all missing, as if she was being picked apart for certain organs. Goto stared at the sight and tried to remember what could have caused this. It could be a wild animal, but he doubted that the ninja on patrol would allow such a wild thing on the loose. So the only things that come to mind is an insane person committing cannibalism, or it looks to be the work of a demon. It could be a member from the Yuki clan. Goto explained his reasoning. Kushina looked at the body, feeling sorry for the last moments that the girl must have experienced. It was a slow death, to be sure. Let's go, we have to return to the house in order to meet Naruto in time for his lessons. Goto explained as he hopped into an open window. Kushina nodded and left through the doorway, since she was too big to fit through the window. After Naruto met up with Ino to learn more from the rumor, he was reviewing what she told him. Apparently, they found the girl lying in her own pool of blood, but the ninja assigned to the hospital sector and recovering dead people mentioned that there was less blood than usual for a girl her age. It almost seemed that the girl's blood was being drained. When they tried to locate the parents, the ninja were further shocked to find that the parents also suffered the same fate. To the investigating ninja, this is a gruesome murder. As he rounded the corner to his house and entered the disguised home, he turned to face Goto and Kushina. He felt that to Goto, it was just as simple as a mystery to solve. Naruto, it looks like we have something happening in the village today. Goto began, but Naruto nodded that he knew. Yeah, I heard. It was a murder of a girl, isn't it? Goto nodded. Correct. This is a little early for you, But this is a rare opportunity for your training as a devil summoner. Goto nodded to Kushina, who held a folder with some papers in it. When I was overseeing the 14th, he used to work as a detective protecting his region from the supernatural phenomena that seeps out into the real world. The real world? Naruto asked. When I was alive, there was a separate world exclusively for demons. It was a dark mirror of the region in which they inhabited. If there was a town there, you can guarantee that there was a dark mirror of the town inhabited by demons. I don't know what happened to the girl, but I do know this. This was the work of a demon, and the victim somehow entered the dark world of Konoha. Goto revealed his findings to his shocked student. Whoa, so what is my part in all this? Naruto asked. Goto stared at the boy. He may or may not take this well. Since I'm training you to be the newest devil summoner, I want you to spend time in this dark world and find out what caused this girl's death. Kushina will be there to help in combat matters, but mostly she will be there where I cannot. I'll be with you until you find the rip of space where the dark world demons are coming from. After that, I won't be able to help you. As a spirit, the dark energy prevents me from entering. If I was alive in a body, I can enter with you, but since that isn't so, you get the idea. Naruto nodded. When do we get started? He asked his teacher. Goto looked up at the sky. It was getting a bit late to start immediately. We will start tomorrow after your studies. Come here immediately, and we'll set out to find this rip in space. We can't let another victim enter this rip and get themselves killed. With the plan in motion, all three members decided on what to eat. Naruto suggested ramen, but Goto shot down that idea. He didn't want more nightmares anytime soon after the other day's demonstration. Both Naruto and Kushina looked crestfallen, since both loved the stuff. The next morning Naruto arrived at school with the plan fresh in his mind, but the question was where the rip was located. He doubted that any of the rumor mills knew about a rip in the fabric of space, so that was out. Naruto thought back to where the girl and her parents' bodies were found. He could always check the area, but he doubted that the investigating ninja would let him through to the scene of the crime. He thought of one other source, but it was such a long shot still, he could see no other option. It was time to get some info from the school gossip. If you ask Ino how her day was spent, you would never believe that the school loser would demand any and all rumors of what happened to Yumiko. But it happened, and her nose for more rumors piqued at the sudden curiosity about all the questions. Especially from Naruto of all people. After telling all the rumors to the dead last, she had a nagging reminder to follow Naruto after school. This was too good a rumor to pass up and not spread. By this time tomorrow, the whole school will know of Naruto's dealings. As soon as the school's lessons ended with the bell, Ino had to painstakingly stop herself from following Sasuke-kun and force herself to follow Naruto at a distance, who seemed to be snooping around the shopping area. If following Sasuke-kun taught her anything, it was to be patient, as Sasuke would stop sometimes abruptly on his way home. Naruto sighed at another dead end. He could only move on to another of Ino's rumors and move on. Ino did various things while appearing incognito to a snooping Naruto, like visiting the shops and hiding behind stalls whenever Naruto would turn back to look behind him. Ino guessed that he might know that someone was following him, but wasn't sure of it. Ino's previous lessons with her father and espionage tactics that he used during his missions made her deducting skills a little sharper than most ninja, but it was rough at best. After seeing Naruto turn a corner and into a dead end, Ino waited a few minutes before following him. What she saw was a little startling. She saw a cat. And it was talking to Naruto. A talking cat was speaking to the dead last, and he wasn't freaked out about it. This was rumor gold. Hiding away in a nearby stack of discarded wooden barrels, she listened into the conversation that the cat and the dead last was having. It seems that you found the rip, Naruto. How did you find out about it? A girl at school is a major gossip, and she told me about the normal routines that the victim follows. Naruto replied. Ino raised her eyebrow. The Naruto she knew wouldn't be using such words like routine or victim. Instead, she was sure he would use simple words like the low-brow male persona he always showed off in front of his classmates. Maybe the rumors on his stupidity were a little exaggerated. Well, from here on out you are on your own. I trust you know the plan, right? You don't need a reminder, do you? The cat asked of Naruto, who shook his head. Alright, I'll meet you back at the house as soon as you come back from your investigation. Don't get killed out there, this realm is very different from what you are used to. The cat ordered and watched as Naruto stopped before the wooden fence, and Ino was watching intently. Her eyes must have been playing tricks on her, as Naruto suddenly vanished. After looking from her hiding spot for anyone watching, she found none. She searched the dead end thoroughly for the dead last. That was a neat jutsu that he performed, and she couldn't wait until she got it out of him. As she neared the place where Naruto vanished, her hand suddenly went through the seemingly solid wooden fence. Whoa! Ino gasped as she pulled her hand out of the rippling wooden fence. It was surreal! After a moment, Ino's mind was racing at the new info on Yumiko's death. She knew something that the investigating ninja didn't, and it would make quite the story. First, however, she had to find out where this rippling thing led to. This was a discovery that only she and Naruto knew, and it was sure to make her more popular at school. She hesitated for a moment before walking through the rippling fence, unknowing that the cat was staring from behind her. He stood still for a moment before walking away from the fence, wondering if that girl would survive her little run in the dark world. The dark world of Konoha felt like normal Konoha, only draped in darkness, and some of the buildings were a little aged and in disrepair. Walking with Kushina at his side, Naruto held the special sword that he used at his waist, where he tied the scabbard to a hoop in his pants. Gudo suggested to wear darker clothing when going into this realm in order to not stand out and be attacked by some of the more confident demons. Naruto had to ditch his orange attire and don a darker gray shirt and black pants. A long black, open cloak was on his shoulders, making for a rather far cry from his usual bright clothing. He was walking silently in the open, as Naruto was told by Gudo that it didn't matter if he moved next to the walls or in the open as demons will always attack. Naruto was trained in basic combat, and it held in his best interests to be attacked in the open for a better movement range than being cornered somewhere. For the most part, eerily watchful eyes watched Naruto crossing into their realm, but kept at bay. Naruto noticed the presence, but kept walking. He had no reason to actively hunt the demons yet, let them come to him. Ino landed on the other side of the wooden fence in a world that was totally too dark for her. Her purple attire that was so suited for the bright side of Konoha was too bright for this dankly place. On top of that, Ino couldn't find Naruto anywhere. Seeing no choice available to her, she moved forward, and into a town that seemed to be the dark-sided belly of Konoha. A few hours into his investigation, Naruto saw a group of demons talking in the open. They were chattering in a language that he didn't understand, so he asked Kushina to translate what were they saying. Kushina listened into the conversation and started translating for her contractor. They are saying that the boss demon got a hold of a human girl who wandered in here a few hours ago. It looks like it hasn't been the first time this boss demon did this to a human, she told Naruto, whose eyes widened at another kidnapping. Could he be the one that killed that girl? He asked his partner. She pondered the question for a moment before nodding slowly. I think he might, but we can't be certain until we meet this boss demon face to face. Kushina looked around her surroundings, as it got a little quieter as they were talking. No doubt that the denizens were watching them carefully. A sudden rustle in the bushes to their right alerted them to somebody approaching their position. Kushina started chanting in low tones as her hands started to glow with green energy. Naruto held his sword with two hands, no doubt ready to dish out axe-type damage to whatever was approaching them. What they didn't expect was a human girl to stumble out of the bushes. This girl had long blonde hair with twigs in it, and her clothes looked rumpled. Almost as if she was running away and dashed through the bushes desperately. Her widened eyes told her that she found what she was looking for and didn't notice Kushina as she tackled him with surprising force. Oh my god! I finally found you! Save me, Naruto, these monsters are chasing me! Ino was panicked as she kept rambling random facts to a confused Naruto. By normal standards, anyone would go on to a 5-minute shockfest at another being finding out his lifelong secret activities followed by a so easy battle that he would then be forced into sharing said secret. Naruto didn't know jack about this world, he was just an apprentice left in a forest of wolves. He didn't mind sharing this world, since it wasn't his to begin with. He wasn't so experienced that any demons encountered would be completely owned by his skills. What did happen correctly though, was there was a set of demons in front of him. They were possibly shocked that another being like the girl was here, but they quickly got into their battle stances, ready to kill them both. Naruto eyed his opponents. They were small demons, and they seemed to work on the fact that strength equals numbers. He recognized one of the demons, from his bowl-cut hair covering his eyes as an Oberian. What? Another fool to knock around? The Oberian said. His posture said that he was the leader of the pack. The other demons of the pack, just two others, were staring menacingly. Like good little thugs, Naruto was reminded very much of from the Jammin ninja manga. The thugs there acted a lot like the demons here. I don't know what you want with her, but get the hell out of here! Naruto shouted out at the group. The thug demons looked ready to follow that order, but the Oberian didn't seem to be affected. Don't think you can order me around, human! Attack! The Oberian shouted and the demons immediately responded by lunging toward Naruto. Naruto couldn't see the forms fully because of the dark shadows, but now in the open, he could see the thugs clearly. A green blob that Naruto recognized as a slime. He remembered the shape because he was chased by one when he first met Goto. Another was a flesh-ridden skeleton warrior known only as a Turdak. From what Goto told him, Turdak often travel alone. At most, only a pair of Turdaks were seen traveling together since most Turdak groups tend to fight each other to the death. Add that with the Oberian, and they were facing a 3-2 fight. The Turdak let out a roar and charged toward a ready Naruto, who held his blade in a guarding stance. The Turdak's double swords clashed with Naruto's own sword and a fierce struggle happened between the combatants. All the while, the Turdak was slowly becoming enraged at a mere human could have matched his skills in the sword. While the struggle was happening, Ino was watching the fight with awe. Naruto never showed skill in the academy like this before. He would always suck when throwing his kunai set and would always struggle in basic skills. Seeing him like this was like a spirit was possessing his body or something. She didn't notice the blob sneak up behind her until it let out a squelching sound. When Ino turned, all she could see was a fading wind-based jutsu image and a winged woman flying off to where Naruto was. She tried to warn Naruto, but she saw the woman fighting alongside against that fighting skeleton. They seemed to be working well together as the woman's green energy was repeatedly being thrown at the skeleton. Each orb of energy that hit near the skeleton was instantly transformed into a mini funnel of wind, kind of like a futon jutsu. Naruto grunted. It was time to end this. Gripping his sword in his familiar axe fashion, he commanded Kushina to distract Turdak while he got into his beginning stance like how Goto taught him. Spreading his legs vertically, he swung upwards toward the side of Turdak and launched him up into the air. All the while, blood from the wound was spilling into the ground below, and he had to wonder where the blood was being stored. After a few seconds, he jumped into air aided by some of the chakra he started to tap into. When he reached about the same height in the air as Turdak, he threw his sword up into the air above and Naruto put his hands into a jutsu seal. From below, Ino frowned. That seal wasn't part of any set of seals that the academy taught them, and to her, Naruto wasn't exactly aware of the set he was doing. Bunshin no Jutsu. Ino's eyes widened. That was not the seal set for Bunshin, not by a long shot. However, 8 copies of Naruto appeared surrounding that skeleton. What she saw was only what she could describe as work of bloody art. The original Naruto gripped his sword and the copies pulled out their own copies of the sword. After Naruto said something she couldn't quite hear, Naruto dropped down. He brought his sword down on the skull in a way a barbarian using an axe would do. She saw the copies swing through the body of the skeleton as Bunshin weren't supposed to do any damage. She was proven wrong as the 9 fine slash marks appeared on the shocked skeleton. His primal roar of pain faded as he just fell apart in a spray of blood, bones and fading copies of Naruto. When the original Naruto landed skillfully on the floor, Ino thought he looked like a seasoned ninja than a dead last at the academy. The leader of the group, now turned solo act, Oberian, was cowed. Right in front of his eyes were the result of his men slaughtered by those meddling fools. He thought he could score some brownie points by kidnapping a second girl, but that plan went out the window. It was time to make a quick retreat. You may have defeated me, but this was just a fancy of mine's. My job's done anyways, keep that blonde wafer. Oberian taunted before running into the shadows of dark Konoha. Ino growled, she wasn't a wafer. Naruto sighed before returning his sword to his scabbard. He almost thought that Ino was the kidnapped girl, but it looked like there was one other girl in this world that wasn't supposed to be here. Are you alright? He asked of a still fuming Ino, who was still ticked off about the wafer comment. After discarding her anger, she nodded to Naruto. Then the questions and comments came. Are you an Umbu agent, Naruto? Where did you learn all those cool moves? You almost looked as cool as Sasuke-kun. A gasp from Ino. Did Sasuke-kun teach you that? Ino tried to connect Naruto's fighting ability to something that Sasuke would do, but it didn't fit somehow. Naruto glared at the mention of Sasuke. Did everything have to happen through Sasuke? It's like saying that the meaning of life is inside Sasuke's butt. Naruto shuddered at the mental image. He would need a lot of ramen to forget that. No, I'm pretty sure that the great Sasuke-kun doesn't know how to this. I'm just an academy student, and that is top secret. Naruto tried to answer what questions Ino spewed out, but it didn't seem to satisfy Ino's curiosity. Where are we then? Ino asked a question that Naruto could answer easily. We are in Dark Konoha Village. This is a village meant for the demons of this world. Ino nodded confusedly. Even if she did tell about what happened to her, it's a little tall to prove, and she was sure that other children wouldn't be as lucky to have Naruto engage the demons every time if they came into this world on their own. Demons? Demons don't exist, at least I thought that was the case until today. Ino asked and answered herself. Naruto nodded and looked toward Kushina, who nodded and flew into the sky. Who's that Naruto? She's very pretty. Ino commented on Kushina's beauty. That's Kushina, she's my demon partner. Naruto told the shocked Ino. That girl was a demon like those freaks. She's a demon too? She looks so human. Naruto had a feeling that the few people who can see Kushina will say the same thing over and over. She's a demon, but she's also my partner. We are working together to find out what killed Yumiko. Naruto replied to Ino's comment, who looked a little ashamed at her thoughtless comment. What kind of demon is she? Do you think one of these demons killed Yumiko? Ino asked as she saw the girl, Kushina, return from flying around the dark world. She's an angel from the Tenchi clan. We think a demon might have gotten out of this world or that Yumiko might have entered this world and has gotten killed. Naruto answered Ino as Kushina whispered something in a language that Ino couldn't understand. Wow, you can understand that, Naruto? Ino asked, amazed that the dead last can understand such a complicated language. Naruto, for his part, looked confused. What are you talking about? She speaks our language. Naruto was interrupted by Kushina talking in her language. Oh, I see, it looks like she can only speak to people like me. Naruto answered to Ino's confusion. People like him? Was he an alien or something? People like you? Are you a demon or something too? Ino asked. No, I'm a devil summoner, Naruto stated proudly. An awkward silence went between them. What the heck is a devil summoner? Ino asked after a while. Naruto didn't have an answer to that, since he didn't know it fully either. Just what was a devil summoner? I don't know, it's all new to me too, Naruto replied. Ino felt that he didn't know either and accepted the answer with a nod. So what are you going to do now? I don't think I can lead you back to the other side. We are too far in and we could get attacked at any time. Ino smiled. She may be a gossip, but she was also very adventurous. It was getting stale in the academy and rumor spreading can only go so far, after all. I might as well hang out with you, this world is very interesting. Besides, I'm sure without me, that angel is sure to take advantage of you, she said slyly. Naruto and Kushina both looked confused and docked their head to the side at the same time, not getting the innuendo at all. Ino sighed, guess it was true. Girls do mature faster than boys, she just assumed that angels were the same. Never mind, let's just go. Ino ordered and started walking deeper into the murky city. Naruto could only shake his head as he followed her. She might not have noticed, but she was very bossy. Walking behind Naruto was a giggling Kushina. She liked this girl. It was nighttime in Konoha when a tired Hokage finally finished his paperwork for the day. He couldn't wait to head back home and enjoy a good cup of sake and a good book by a roaring fire. Gathering up his pipe and coat, he walked toward the double doors of his office when the doors were busted open by a panicking Inoichi Yamanaka. Hokage-sama! Inoichi yelled at the old leader rather chibi-like a child to his grandfather. Sarutobi frowned. He could handle this from Naruto, but a grown man? Picking a sobbing mess that used to be Inoichi, he could smell the alcohol in his breath. It looked like he was drunk before stumbling in here like this. Inoichi, calm yourself. Do you want your wife seeing like this? Again? The aged Hokage threatened, sort of. It worked remarkably well as Inoichi froze and almost instantly sobered up with chakra to his brain. Useful thing, chakra. From wounds to hangover cures, was there no thing it couldn't stop? Sarutobi paused. Oh yeah, death. Now, what happened here? Sarutobi ushered the moaning Inoichi to a chair in his office and sat him down. My daughter Ino, she's missing, Inoichi said, working up into a panic. Sarutobi sighed at the man's personality. He was a decent ninja, but he hasn't seen action in a long time. Could working at a flower shop turn such a hardened veteran of the ninja corps into a drunken, sobbing mess? He has to assign some B-ranked missions to Inoichi sometime soon, or else it would be a repeat of what happened here tonight. He thought about his other two teammates, but he wouldn't want to waste missions on seemingly normal clan heads and imposing on their duties to the clans they lead. Okay, let's calm down, Inoichi. Perhaps she is at a friend's house? I recall that Miss Yamanaka is a very popular girl at the academy, isn't she? Sarutobi was concerned for the girl, but he wasn't convinced to send out Ambu squads for a girl that might be at a friend's house. But she tells her mother or me when she goes to sleep over at a friend's house. She didn't, and I checked all of her friends that she slept over with. Now Sarutobi was on heightened alert. This might be a possible kidnapping, but no Ambu patrols reported anything suspicious. Let me see what I can do. Let me talk to the Umbu and find out where she was last. Sarutobi told the panicking father. Hokage-sama, I was told by her friends that she was last seen following Naruto in the shopping district. Now that piqued the Hokage's interest. That would make his job easier if Naruto was involved. Getting down his spying orb from the bookcase, he activated the chakra on the orb and watched it try and locate Naruto. Inoichi narrowed his eyes from the glow, but he soon found himself staring at the odd artifact that the Hokage had stashed in his office. If he was single with that orb, Inoichi had a red hue on his face, and Sarutobi hoped that was alcohol-induced. After a few moments he got an image, and it wasn't one he hoped it would be. The piece of clothing that Naruto's seal was on wasn't being worn, and his plan to locate the blonde duo that way went down the tube. I'm sorry, Inoichi, but Naruto isn't there either. It looks like they are both missing from Konoha, Sarutobi declared while getting in touch with the hidden Umbu agent that guarded him constantly. After speaking orders to a nodding Umbu, Sarutobi turned back to see Inoichi absorbed into the shiny piece of glass. He seemed to be getting angry too. Inoichi? Sarutobi asked cautiously. An angry father was one thing, a sobbing mess of a drunken father turned angry was another thing. I saw my daughter's skirt in that image where his jacket was. He is trying to deflower my little flower. Naruto Uzumaki must die. The pumped-up father turned berserker slammed open the Hokage's doors and stomped out into the hallway before coming back and bowing to his leader. My apologies, Hokage-sama. I have to murder a little boy now for taking away my daughter's innocence. Fearful for his knucklehead grandson, the aging Hokage followed Inoichi. It was easy to catch up to the man as he didn't use any ninja skills, but instead stomped toward where he believed Naruto lived. All Sarutobi could do was lead the angry Inoichi away from where Naruto lived by distracting him with other things, but all he could do was delay the inevitable. He seriously hoped that Naruto wasn't doing what Ino's father believed he was doing, or he was ground paste when Inoichi finally got a hold of him. Gudo was confused where a purple bedsheet came from all of a sudden. It was as if the wind picked up a hanging bedsheet and guided it toward an open window that Naruto left open before he went on his investigation. Giving it no thought, he kept staring at the moon, distracting himself in his memories of his previous adventures. It seemed that time is read differently in the Dark Realm than Naruto once thought as he looked toward the Dark Town's clock tower. The hands looked like it read 5 in the afternoon, but instead of numbers, the large hands pointed to little bars and pictures of moon phases replaced the numbers. That clock is a little strange, Naruto muttered as he held back a yawn. His body must be out of whack if it was tired at 5 in the afternoon. Ino must have been tired as she was complaining of a place to sleep. Thinking that their bodies still remembered routines in the other world, Naruto could only guess that it was nighttime outside in the real world. The one good thing about being in the Dark World was that the denizens of the Dark World do get tired and sleep in safe areas like empty shops and buildings. Naruto began looking for an abandoned shop to sleep in when Ino pointed out that this was the street where her home was on. Walking ahead, Ino fumbled for a key in her pocket before opening the door to her home. Naruto heard her shout, "I'm home," before he entered and locked her house's door. No need for any snooping demon to enter and have their life shortened by his blade, after all. Of all the buildings in the dark Konoha street, this was untouched in any way. It even looked clean on the floor around the door, as if someone swept the floor daily around here. Is there anywhere I can sleep, Ino? He asked, a little tired from his full day of exploring the mirror town. Ino looked a bit uncomfortable before speaking what was on her mind. Well, I don't like being alone anywhere in this world. These demons might get us while we are separated, so I'm thinking of sharing our parents' bed for tonight, Ino said with a light blush on her face. Naruto was completely red-faced and Kushina was laughing at her contractor's situation. After a bit of bickering between Naruto and the blonde girl, Kushina watched amused as Ino dragged Naruto toward what she believed was her parents' room. Kushina grinned widely, she really liked this girl. After directing Inoichi into sleeping off his drunken state and handing him off to his wife, who he could hear a loud screeching about him getting drunk, a haggard-looking Hokage traveled back to his home. He would have to wait 15 hours before he could mobilize any squad to look for the pair of blondes. As he made it into his home, he had to wonder how were they doing. Were they safe? Were they good on food? He could only wait and see what would happen. He only hoped that they were somewhere in this village, and were just blowing off steam from something. As Naruto and Ino shared a bed with Kushina in Ino's room, they slept rather undisturbed as not a single demon interrupted or broke into the housing that the pair slept in for the night. Coincidentally, Inoichi couldn't sleep very well, as he felt something on top of him. He woke up several times, but he could only feel the blanket on top of his form. He could only chalk it up to his worrying about his missing daughter, so he slept fitfully and woke up with a harsher than usual hangover. His wife didn't do anything to help him. A ray of dimmed light somehow hit Naruto's face the next morning as he found himself in a rather compromising position. Somehow during their forced sharing of her parents' bed, Ino crawled onto Naruto and used his torso and arms for a pillow, and Naruto's arm wrapped around Ino's lithe body and around her waist. They seemed to be rather comfortable if by their non-stop sleeping through the night was any indication. Naruto had a light rosy hue on his face as he assessed his situation. Ino wasn't unattractive by any means, but he was sure of the law of PMGP, parents making ground paste of him. Careful to remove himself from the tangle, he ignored Ino's murmurs of discontent at his attempts at removal. After getting away from her sleeping form, she still moaned a bit from the lost heat. Naruto went to the empty closet in the room to find his gear set up neatly inside. He doubted there was any running water or stored food inside the dark world version of Ino's home, so he put on his gear and headed outside of the bedroom as silently as he could. Outside of the room, he saw Kushina awake and alert as she walked around the house, obviously exploring the place. Her eyes seemed to drink in more of the house than what was normal. Probably because she never visited someone else's home before. "Hey Kushina?" Naruto called out softly. Kushina turned, curious at the question. "What is it, Naruto-kun?" she asked, wondering what was up. His tone of voice suggested that he didn't want to wake up the girl. She hoped they would wake up together. That would have been a funny scene. "Why did Ino say that she couldn't understand you? I mean, we are talking like normal people right now, right?" Naruto asked, and Kushina pondered the answer. "The best thing to tell you that would explain it is that we are somehow able to understand each other cause of the contract. I speak in your language so that you could understand me, and your words come out to the language of the Tenchi clan," she answered after a moment. "Is the magic of the contract that powerful?" Naruto asked, pulling out the business card that Kushina gave him when they met. Kushina smiled. She liked the memory too. It seemed to be deeper than that, but the meeting and contract was just a normal contract. The teachings of the Tenchi clan was very thorough on the subject throughout history. Many of the Tenchi tried to find a deeper meaning, but none have succeeded to prove anything. It could be. I wouldn't put too much thought into it though. The Tenchi have tried and failed to find any deeper meaning. Kushina replied and turned away from Naruto, eager to explore the house more. Naruto guessed that out of all the houses Kushina visited while invisible, she could never truly visit this house. For what reason, he didn't know. After surprisingly finding several cans of food in the family's kitchen downstairs, Naruto and Kushina made a meal out of what they could. It was mostly canned fruit and some canned bread, but it was rather delicious overall. Morning Ino came downstairs to the kitchen at last, her clothing a little rumpled. It was natural since they both slept in the same clothes as yesterday. Ino was also surprised at the sight of food, but Kushina made sure to part enough of the canned food for the girl, as she was sure that the other human was hungry as well. Kushina sighed at the food. It wasn't ramen, but it was a nice change of food style for once. She couldn't say the same thing for Naruto, as he wept at the absence of no ramen packets, something that she too mourned. After mentioning that there was no water to boil anyways, he straightened up and ate the fruit and bread. When Naruto gazed at the dark town's clock again, it read only the words "new moon" on it. Kushina gazed at the clock as well and decided to tell them what they meant. "I'm sure you haven't heard of the moon phases, have you, Naruto?" Kushina asked. Naruto shook his head, curious about these moon phases. "The time read here is the same as gazing at the moon. Understandably so, since there is no sunlight. Any light at all comes from the moon, which is always there above the demon world," Kushina explained, remembering everything she learned from other angels. For some reason, demons who aren't contracted by devil summoners before the full moon turn feral and will often attack other demons for dominance. It goes away after the full moon is gone, but it happens so scarcely that the demons are usually wary when the phase before it appears. "How many human days does it take to change phases?" Naruto asked. "I believe that it takes around 3 to 4 days between changes of phases. We are beginning the new moon phase, so demons are very mellow right now. There won't be as many possible encounters, but we should still keep our guard up," Kushina warned, and Naruto nodded, his grip on his sword very tight. After closing the door to her home, Ino made sure to lock it. The trio made sure they were ready for another day of investigation. The new moon made the demonic stares at them more easy to handle, since their fierceness was dulled somehow. As they neared the central area of the shopping district, Naruto felt a large pressure on himself. It was almost suffocating as he dropped to his knees to a shocked Ino and Kushina. The pressure let up suddenly as Naruto could only gasp air while worrying Ino. He looked around for the source of the pressure, but found nothing out of the ordinary. The pressure must have been felt by the other demons, for their watchful eyes disappeared as well. "What was that?" Naruto asked. Ino shrugged. She felt a dampening on the air as Naruto dropped to his knees. Kushina looked more battle-ready as she gazed their surroundings once more. After finding none, she calmed down. She felt the same pressure, but being in the demon world longer than her contractor, she could resist it better. After making sure Naruto was fine, the three kept going on their way. Naruto was still wondering where the source of the pressure came from when Ino suddenly spoke up. "Hey, this is where they found Yumiko's body," Ino gasped aloud. Naruto saw the scene for the first time without wandering ninja and curious civilians stretching for a gaze into the scene. The place seemed to be in worse shape than the other buildings in the area. He could also see broken windows and large claw marks on the surrounding buildings' walls. "I guess we found where Yumiko might have been killed," Naruto commented and started looking around for anything useful on what killed her. He would have taken a picture, but he was pretty sure that Goto investigated the area thoroughly as a spirit. An hour into helping Naruto and Kushina in their search for clues, Ino decided to enter Yumiko's home, after remembering that this was the street where she lived. Ino wondered if Yumiko even got far from her home before whatever killed her so brutally. After entering the house with Naruto, Kushina standing guard outside the abandoned home, the pair started to look into why a demon would attack her family and her so specifically and not wreak other havoc to other people. It was almost as if they were targeted by this demon. It seemed to Naruto that there weren't many possessions in the home, since there wasn't much in the way of furniture. The way that Goto elaborated on the subject of the dark world of towns, it seemed that only small things, like photos and books, were absent when a dark world was formed. Yumiko's home was rather empty. When they reached Yumiko's room, they found something rather peculiar. There was an open tome on the floor, and what looked like several drawings of runes on the carpet floor of her room was still visible. It looked pretty recent as well as carefully drawn. "This is one strange room," Naruto muttered to himself as he picked up the open tome. He glanced at the page that it was on, and he was shocked. The picture was one of that humanoid monster that chased him on the first day he became a devil summoner. He read the text on the bottom of the picture. Ghoul, it read. So the monster that killed Yumiko was probably a ghoul, Naruto concluded. He had to wonder though, what was the drawings on the floor though? If he was any sort of genius, he would have to say that it was a complex summoning seal. Yumiko didn't seem to be the genius summoner type, but the array was there, and it raises some questions about Yumiko's life outside the academy. "Hey, look at this. This diary is glowing," Ino said from a nearby drawer in the room. Naruto peered closer to where Ino was looking at. She was right. There was a faintly glowing diary inside the drawer. It looked normal, and he felt nothing malicious out of it, so he picked it up. He tried opening it, but it seemed to glued shut and wouldn't open. However, when Ino tried to open it, the diary opened easily. After dismissing it as something only Ino could do at this point, she started reading a page from the diary. Month I Day Ziv. Dear Diary. My parents are fighting again. Mother is trying to find sources of money to pay for Dad's debts. She had to use Hokage-sama's stipend for my school supplies. I hope that sensei doesn't recognize that I've been using 2-year-old kunai and shuriken. I bought a really old book today. I've found so many strange pictures on it, but I've found something strange on it. It's a circle pattern. Ino frowned at the entry, but she continued reading the next page. Month I Day XXV. I've drawn the seal, but I'm having strange voices in my head. My mother was recoiling from the fight from yesterday. Father struck her. I'm scared. He never struck her before. Now Ino was getting a bit scared. This diary seemed to be recording her final days. She flipped to the last entry, which was the day she died. Month 2 Day 2. The voices in my head, they told me to summon Ghoul-sama. Ghoul-sama? What is happening to me? My head hurts so much. I thought I saw the seal glow last night. My parents are quiet too. I feel that something bad is going to happen. There is nothing else. What happened, Yumiko? Ino asked herself. Naruto shook his head and pocketed the tome and diary. He took a photo of the seal with the portable camera that Goto provided. It looked old, but it seemed to be more modern than those tripod cameras he saw on sale in the shopping district in regular Konoha. I don't think there's anything else. Let's go. An explosion rumbled the house suddenly. Naruto panicked. Kushina! Rushing outside, Naruto was shocked to see Kushina doing a dogfight with a high-jumping creature, and it was all very fast. Kushina rapidly chanted several spells and were throwing them in rapid succession to her opponent. However, the demon didn't even seem to flinch at the attacks and struck with his claws at Kushina with frightening speed. Naruto could only stare in horror as the creature just went through a shocked Kushina. Her side was slashed so cleanly that her blood didn't spill out until a clear 5 seconds later. Her moan of pain was silent as she fell from the sky, her wings suddenly stopped supporting her flight. Kushina! Naruto shouted her partner's name as he rushed toward her falling body. Ino's eyes widened as the angel was falling so quickly, her blood just flowing from her wounds so rapidly. Naruto got to her in time just as she was about to hit the floor. She landed in his arms instead. Naruto didn't know what to do, her blood was just flowing too quickly. No, Kushina! Naruto could only plead as Kushina's lips started to turn blue. She was only moaning as her wounds started to get a green tinge. Ino could only tear up as the angel's situation got worse and worse. Her eyes widened as the shadowy opponent growled and started to run toward Naruto, who was worried about his partner's fate. Naruto! Ino screamed out as the creature swiped at Naruto's back. However, Naruto swiped at the claw with his sword with such precision and speed that it seemed unreal. The monster's claw was swiped clean off and it howled in pain as it backed away from Naruto. However, Naruto didn't seem to be himself and Ino saw why. Kushina wasn't breathing. As Ino rushed toward her side, she saw Naruto become extremely angry. She actually saw a red aura envelop Naruto as he growled almost animal-like. He didn't seem to care that he was excluding an aura of pressure that seemed to surpass what Naruto described, as even Ino felt the heavy aura of death. As Ino looked over Kushina's body, she could only panic as the blood stopped flowing, but Kushina wasn't responding to her calls. Ino started to cry in sorrow. How could something so cruel take something as holy as an angel? They weren't hurting anyone. This wasn't fair. Ino's eyes widened even more as she thought back to when she attended a funeral for someone in her clan. Her cousin's face of agony as he stood there unwavering at the service. He was probably thinking that it wasn't fair that his father had died so suddenly. She wasn't related to this angel, how could anyone be? However, her short stay with her made a deep impact inside her soul. It must have been especially hard on Naruto, who has been together for far longer than her. It was so heartbreaking. The battle at hand prevented her from thinking down that train of thought any further though. Naruto roared in primal rage as he swung his sword with both rapid succession and accurate precision. The demon had no chance to defend itself as it took the blows fully. When Naruto had enough of its swinging, he began his finishing move. Launching the demon up into the air, the moonlight showed the demon's form for what it was. It was the ghoul from the book. Naruto growled as he skipped the seals for his bunshin and instead swung by himself through the skull first. He landed on the floor but instantly rocketed to swing back up the ghoul's corpse. He kicked off from the corpse to hit one of the walls of the street's buildings. He repeated this with frightening skill that he actually carved 9 deep lines on the fading ghoul's corpse. However, before letting it die normally, Naruto used this red aura to jump a bit higher than the ghoul to charge his axe sword with the red energy, giving the blade a blood-red edge. He threw the axe sword like a giant tomahawk at the body and actually shattered it into 9 bloody pieces. The axe sword landed in a foot crater after going through the demon's body. Ino couldn't do anything but watch helplessly as Naruto's red aura didn't fade after killing that monster. She could only do one thing that would protect her as Naruto's wild look stared at her and started growling at her as a warning to get away. Desperate, Ino started her seal sequence as Naruto started to stalk to her and Kushina, his nails growing into claws and acting like the demon he just destroyed. When she finished with the last seal, it was just in time as Naruto started to swing his claw-like arm at her. Shintenshin! Ino screamed out, and her world faded. Gudo had a cold feeling, like his idiot apprentice had tapped into a power that was long thought to be sealed away. He only wished he was wrong, but no, his luck, that just wasn't possible. Waking up to a sewer-like tunnel, Ino got up from the water-like substance and started to look around her new surroundings. She could see nothing but dank light and water, so her observations ended there. Seeing no choice, she walked forward and heard a piercing scream, as if it was in pain and agony. Looking around very quickly, Ino could only hear the screams of pain, agony, and anger. Running forward to where she believed the screams were coming from, Ino was shocked to see Kushina waiting for her. Kushina? You're alive? Ino asked, but the angel didn't answer. Her face was unusually solemn, a far cry from the mischievous and happy look that she sported often. She could only point at Ino and then at herself as she flew in a slow pace in a random direction. Ino got the impression that Kushina wanted her to follow. After following non-stop, Ino was led to a large room with a large gate in the distance. Her concern wasn't with that though, she found something much more pressing. Naruto was face down in the bubbling water. Quickly grabbing Naruto from the unusually hot water, he dragged a pain-ridden Naruto who was still moaning Kushina's name. Ino tried to tell him that Kushina was right here, but when she looked to where Kushina left her, she was nowhere to be seen. Kushina, Kushina, Naruto cried out. Ino noticed that with each second and with each rise of desperation that Naruto's voice showed, the bubbling water seemed to grow with more ferocity. Ino was probably imagining it, but she heard a dark chuckle in her mind as the bubbles seemed to take form. Dreading what the finished product of those bubbles were, she tried to shake Naruto from his stupor. Nothing worked except. It was in an old film she watched with her dad when she was small, and it was the first thing that came to her mind. She slapped him hard. It worked as the bubbles fell apart, and Naruto could only wake up and feel the sting of the slap. Naruto could only stiffen as Ino suddenly hugged him. He instinctively hugged back as their world went white. Ino gasped out as she woke in her own body again. She saw Naruto's prone form shake and stir as he groaned in pain. He woke up and Ino couldn't see the red aura surrounding him anymore. Where am I? Naruto groaned out, as if he had a huge headache from spinning around or drinking too much. However, his recent memory spurred him towards searching for his fallen partner. He wasn't prepared, though, for a figure in a scientist's getup to be prodding her dead figure with all. You! Get away from Kushina! Naruto shouted as he tried to ram the new figure from his friend's body. The figure, however, merely sidestepped and didn't even bother to watch Naruto slam into a wall. He was more interested in the fallen partner than Naruto's rather stupid tactic. What are you doing to Kushina? Ino asked, shocked at the callous treatment of the fallen angel. The figure just smiled and picked up the body with one hand while motioning Ino with the other. Naruto could only groan as he tried to grab for his sword to attack this assailant but could hiss in pain as the figure just stomped on his hand. Ino felt sorry for Naruto as she helped him up and tried to grab the abnormally heavy sword. Naruto, however, grabbed the sword in one hand and put it in its scabbard as he could do nothing without hurting Kushina in the process. Where are you taking us? Ino asked the figure as it stopped to an abandoned home, and she recognized the home as the place next door to her very own home. Don't worry now, I'll have this fabulous specimen back up and running to fighting fit. The figure laughed insanely as he kicked in the doorway and disappeared down a set of stairs that Ino was sure wasn't there when she visited the building the other week. The blonde duo could only stare in amazement as they were led to a lab that only should have existed in the horror films of old. It was stocked up with various bubbling chemicals and large generators of electricity were humming with intensity. Two well-charred cages stood in the back of the room with an operating table before it. The figure dumped Kushina's body rather roughly to the operating table and started to stretch the rubber gloves on its form. He started to laugh insanely, creeping out both Naruto and Ino. I'm guessing this is the first time you've seen a demon die, haven't you, apprentice devil summoner? Naruto's eyes widened. Who was he, and how did he know that? Who are you? Naruto asked the figure as it connected several wires to Kushina's body. Naruto didn't like this bastard's treatment of his dead friend, and he certainly didn't like the figure putting wires on her body. My name. The figure paused as it pulled a nearby switch next to the operating table. The large generators started to crackle and explode with overcharged electricity, and the sparks made clear on the figure's face. It was a pale white-skinned man with a large scientist's overcoat and large rubber gloves. A pair of goggles was on the man's eyes as he watched the energy from the generators pulse into Kushina's twitching body. Ino was mesmerized as the wounds that Kushina sported were closing up and healing as the electricity entered her body in large amounts. Naruto couldn't believe it either as the color of Kushina's skin was returning to her light peachy color. After a few more seconds, the scientist pulled back the switch and the electricity stopped pouring into her. It was almost instantaneous as Kushina gasped and sat up from the operating table. Both Naruto and Ino gasped. Who was this man to bring back a soul from death to living once again? Is Victor, demon scientist extraordinaire? The man, Victor, began laughing even more insanely as the generators sparked out excess electricity, making for a rather impressive introduction. Naruto and Kushina couldn't believe that the life and death of his contracted demons was in the hands of this insane man. It was just too crazy to be real. Tell Goodo this, young apprentice. Victor is coming to Konoha soon, he said mysteriously as he charged up the generators once more. It's too far for you to go back the way you came. Fortunately, this little girl's house seems to have a point for exiting this world somewhere inside. Victor explained as he grabbed two live wires with ease and stuck them between two holes on a wooden box. The wooden box seemed to glow with intense energy before returning to a normal color for wood. Victor grinned as he pulled out the wires and grabbed the box. He tossed it to Ino, who caught it with both hands. She expected to get shocked, but felt no such thing to her wonder and amazement. Just use that box where the weak point is located at and you'll be back in the real world. I think you've killed the rampant demon that was causing so much trouble for the denizens here, and now they'll start to come back out to make this town a lively village again. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Victor bowed as he escorted them out of his laboratory and into the demon world above. Almost instantly, the trio saw demons test the open roads outside and start chattering to their brethren to do the same. After entering Ino's home again, the two blondes started looking for the supposed weak point that would allow them to come back to the world that they knew. They tried the kitchen, bathroom, and even Ino's parents' bedroom, but the box wouldn't even twitch. However, as they passed by Ino's room, the box started to glow faintly. As they entered Ino's bedroom, the box started to glow brighter and brighter until the box opened on its own. A large distortion appeared over Ino's bed and both Naruto and Ino nodded. They both jumped into the distortion with Kushina close behind as the world started to distort and expand before their eyes. Naruto landed first on Ino's bed and wasn't prepared for Ino's body to slam into his own in a compromising position as his hands were on a blushing Ino's chest. As he said sorry and was about to push her off, Inoichi Yamanaka chose this particular moment to investigate the sudden thumping coming from his little missing flower's bedroom. A very awkward silence took precedence as both preteens watched the daughter's father steal his face into a mix of relief and anger, mostly anger. "Ino Yamanaka!" her father shouted as Ino panicked and pushed off Naruto's chest, who went stock still. Even Kushina felt sorry for the girl as she was looking at her enraged father. Both Kushina and Naruto felt cold dread as Inoichi's rage focused on both of them. Even if she was invisible to normal humans, Kushina felt that his anger was directed at her too. "You! How dare you come here? You think you are being a man for taking my daughter's innocence?" Inoichi raged and started to stalk toward a very scared Naruto. Outside the Yamanaka home, the civilians could only wonder why there were pleas for forgiveness, shouts of a young girl pleading for her father to stop, and a very angry Inoichi raging like never before against a boy who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. It was now early March, and the beginnings of spring was evident as Konoha kicked up its usual hustle and bustle. With spring arriving, there was an increase in activity that came with the warm village region. Shoppers in the shopping district, civilian children attending schools for their future professions, ninja hopefuls attending the spring portion of the academy, and Naruto being bored out of his skull trying to make heads or tails out of his new teacher. Irika Yumino was a freshly installed teacher hired by the academy department of the Hokage's office. As a new teacher, they are automatically assigned a teacher's aide, and to the teacher's surprise, it was his old friend Mizuki. Mizuki was a teacher's aide trying to get his teacher's license for about 4 years. During his bid to promote himself from an assistant to being a full-time teacher, he showed an affinity for hard work, and his record showed it. His demeanor was rather friendly, and he was very supportive of his friend's ascension to teacherhood before him, for he seemed to bear no ill will. They apparently worked very well when they were ninja rank and file, so the department paired them up again. Naruto gazed around the more spacious classroom and spotted fewer students than usual. The academy suffered a withdrawal of students and teachers following Yumiko's death, saying that the school had a bad reputation for letting one of its own die. Even if it was no fault of the school, the academy department was threatened with dissolution from the civilian portion of the clan council, despite full support from the clan council for the department. The solution? Hire fresh talent and provide a more safer environment. The academy was going through a huge renovation with a reinforcement to the school walls and in addition to an indoor training ground for kunai and shuriken training. Chain link fences were being installed by the school tracking grounds via private funding from the Konoha Clan Council. It took the death of that one little girl to spur actions that was being desperately asked for years by the academy. After returning and somehow surviving the process of becoming paced via Inoichi Yamanaka, Naruto told Goto about what happened with Victor and Kushina's death and returned to life via Victor's strange machine. He also showed Goto the tome and diary that was found in Yumiko's Dark World version of her home. All Goto had to say on the matter was case closed. It was rather anticlimactic actually. After explaining to Naruto who Victor was, Naruto was rather relieved that his demons that were contracted with him were always safe from permanent death. However, Goto warned that letting them fall into this state too often could result in more than just a slap on the wrist. After being debriefed by Goto on the manner of the death of Yumiko and the subsequent eradication of the demon who caused it, Naruto mentioned that another human girl has been captured by this demon boss of Konoha. Goto stood silent as he took in the information from Naruto's story. Without a word that he even heeded Naruto's story, Goto told him to start practicing while the evening was young. Not really surprised by the cat's non-caring nature on what he thought was relevant information, Naruto obeyed and began his routine. He was surprised a few days later that a photo of said kidnapped girl was delivered via envelope to the boy's house. Any indication of the sender that was said on the envelope was aptly put in one word. Victor. The photo surprisingly was a vantage point of the murdered girl, Yumiko. She seemed to be rather happy in the photo, being surrounded by a group of Jack Frosts and Pyro Jacks. The boss demon was shadowed, but he seemed to be extremely huge and had an outline of a wig. Naruto had to wonder as to whatever happened with that Obarian that ran off after the fight in the Dark World. Days went on and Naruto continued with life in the academy. His adventure with Ino was kept under wraps as Ino decided not to talk about it, seeing that it affected her rather deeply. Besides, Ino said to Naruto a few days after their little adventure, who would believe her? Back to the present, Naruto wasn't sure what to make out of the new teacher. He wasn't boring like their other teacher, who quit saying that the news of one of his students' deaths was too much for him to bear. He seemed to be a mix of both boring and optimistic, something that Naruto has never seen before in a teacher. Okay class, we are going on to the field for some shuriken training. Iruka, their new teacher, said as some of the battle-happy students cheered and some of the pacifists, mostly girls and a few boys, groaned and had to trudge behind the rushers, which included Naruto. Apparently Goto's training did not teach Naruto control. You would think that with a strict training regiment, the personality of a 10-year-old will be one of a 30-year-old. At the training field, Iruka instructed that he wanted to see how skilled they were and where they needed work. After calling them in a random order, Naruto was able to see who were superior in distance marksmanship, and those that could do better in close-range methods, like fighting hand-to-hand. He noticed that Kiba absolutely just sucked at firing shuriken, and he guessed that he wouldn't be so hot on kunai throwing. He only hit 4 out 10 times. When Shino Aburame was called up, he was rather advanced at the new teacher's test. While they weren't all bullseyes, hitting 8 out of 10 times in areas where it would be vital was rather impressive. Sakura's performance was rather textbook. She took her time with each hit as if convincing herself that she could do this over and over again. She hit an average score of 8, rather impressive for her rather thin build. Ino took Sakura's score as a sort of competition as she launched her shuriken faster and with more ferocity than Sakura. Her score was still the same as Sakura's though, only 8. Naruto then spied a rather fidgety girl come up to the testing area. He didn't remember her ever introducing herself to him, so her name wasn't familiar to him. She was rather flimsy in her throws, as if afraid of the target, or rather what her throws will do to the bullseye as if it was a real person. Her score was rather abysmal, hitting only 3 out of 10. Hyuga-sama, Iruka began, ignoring the flinch from the girl. Weren't the Hyuga clan proud of their power? Why was the heiress to the most powerful clan since the fallen Uchiha clan doing so terribly? Is there a problem with your performance today? He finished, noticing the slight shaking of the girl. Naruto noticed and even Ino noticed it. The other children were too busy waiting or talking about their scores and comparing them with each other. And no, I just haven't been practicing my throws lately, the heiress said so quietly that Iruka had to strain his hearing to catch it. Okay, just keep practicing. We are going to have this kind of test more often, Iruka said gently to the girl, which seemed to have no effect on her fidgeting. Okay, next up Naruto, Iruka said with a rather neutral sort of tone, as if calculating his worth with this test. Naruto figured he was one of those who didn't know whether to hate him or like him. I'm sure you know the rules by now. Score enough hits and try to make as many center bullseyes as possible. Begin whenever you are ready, Iruka instructed. Naruto nodded and grabbed his shuriken as he focused on his target. The first throw was just at the edge of painted bullseye, but it still counted. Iruka frowned but put a point besides Naruto's name as a valid hit. Naruto shook his head. He knew he could do better than that. His second throw was an improvement as it edged closer to the bullseye, but not by much. In fact, it was rather diagonal to the first one. Some children started giggling and calling him names under their breath. Iruka still counted it as a valid hit though, and Naruto was starting to get a positive feel from this man. His third attempt was a lot closer to the center, but it still lacked the precision of a direct hit. It still had the strange diagonal direction as the other two, but none but the most critical thinking students paid it any mind. The other students were brushing off the attempt as a lucky shot. His fourth, fifth, and sixth attempts were rather random as they hit 3 different points on the bullseye. It still had the same diagonal pathway as the others and Iruka still counted them all. A few of the sharper-eyed students started to see the pattern that Naruto was making and started to murmur and think of possible answers as to why Naruto was doing this. Naruto thought it was just plain cheating, so did Ino for that matter. Why? It was because Kushina was using her green energy spells to use the wind to force the shuriken in a given direction. It was a game to her, a rather fun game if her large grin was any indication. His 7th and 8th attempts were not assisted by Kushina as one finally hit the bullseye center and another one was in the middle range of the bullseye. Iruka smiled a bit at the center hit, and made a double mark on Naruto's name as well as an extra one for the middle range shot. Iruka's eyes sneaked around and spotted the fidgety Hyuga heiress relax and smile at the blonde with a tiny rosy blush on her face. It looked like the princess is affectionate for the village pauper. His ninth hit actually was a mixture of both manipulation and bad luck, as Kushina's meddling and a sudden gust of natural wind made his ninth shuriken bounce off one of his earlier throws. Iruka had no choice but to not mark it as a valid hit, despite the acts of God that clearly manipulated the throw. Naruto focused really hard on this last throw. He wanted to make this on his own and not helped by Kushina. He gave a slight glance to where Kushina was hiding and shook his head slightly. Iruka caught it and glanced over to where Naruto was looking at but couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. Shaking his head, he gave Naruto the go-ahead. Naruto was rather forceful whenever he went on the attack, as Ino and Kushina witnessed as he fought those demons in Dark Konoha. His style of using an axe-infused sword was dependent on how much recklessness he could muster with each swing. Shuriken was the exact opposite, as it required no more pressure than a quick flick of the wrist and letting the wind carry it to its target. The result was the shuriken flying out of control and flying high into the sky. Naruto's face burned with embarrassment as nearly all of the children, Ino included, started laughing at his mistake. Hinata was looking at him with pity, but he didn't notice, instead watching fascinatingly at the falling shuriken that somehow didn't fly into the distance. Shino, Iruka and Naruto were watching as the shuriken fell and did the most amazing thing. It landed just above the ninth shuriken in the center of the bullseye. With that, every student who laughed at him was gawking and murmuring that it was an incredibly lucky landing. Iruka smiled. Naruto was unorthodox, but all ninjas who were meant something in the world were. 9 hits Naruto, very impressive. You might walk away today with being the head student in the physical portion of the academy. Iruka complimented a rather bashful Naruto. It seemed that he didn't take compliments very well. Next up, Sasuke Uchiha. Iruka read off as he watched a boy with black hair step up into the testing area. A lot of girls started to cheer and faint at his presence, while the boys weren't exactly too thrilled to see the boy. Sasuke seemed to be a robot in a routine, as each and every hit was in the close range or in the center itself. Only one was in the middle range, and it was a technicality called by Iruka, something that angered the Uchiha. 10 hits Sasuke, very impressive. It looks like we have a new champion in the physical race of the academy. Iruka congratulated Sasuke, who looked rather sullen at the news. Naruto sighed. He would never understand the world of the emo. After school, Naruto had a pretty good view on his new teacher. Iruka was a straightforward teacher who took his job rather seriously. He graded fairly, and his actions today felt like he was judged accurately rather than having to try harder than normal for a fair grade. He was a teacher who actually well taught in a balanced manner, in Naruto's opinion. Naruto was gathering up his stuff and carefully packing away his shuriken when he witnessed something outside the window that spoke something else than what was told. The Hyuga heiress was throwing her shuriken with a better vigor than what the class saw earlier today. She was hitting with a better rate than before, and her targets were aimed better at the center of the bullseye than normal. It was as if she was hiding her talent from everyone else, and it was a natural reflex as well. Naruto could stare as she gathered up her shuriken and started throwing at the target again and again, each time improving just a bit more. While he would have liked to see her practice more and more, Gudo was a rather punctual trainer, and he didn't like tardiness at all. Somewhere in Konoha, a masked individual sneezed. He paid it no heed and continued reading. As the days went by and Naruto continued to watch the heiress practice more and more while doing rather feebly in class examinations, Ino got curious and started to hang behind and see what was taking Naruto's time. As far as Ino knew, he usually rushed to his housing complex as soon as the bell rung. She soon saw what took up his time and couldn't help but be amazed at the performance that the girl was hiding from her peers. If she recalled correctly, her name was Hinata, the heir to the Hyuga clan. After telling Naruto that she thought that it would be better to coax her out of her shyness to show her talent, all she got was a confused look from the boy. It never occurred to the boy to try such a thing and was content on watching her practice. Ino only sighed, irritated by the boy's sudden passiveness on the matter. It was as if he enjoyed her practice in solitude. Ino had no idea why it made her so angry at the boy. However, her feelings were dashed when Naruto seemed to answer her thoughts. "Don't you see, Ino? The girl is like a mirror image of me," Naruto said simply to a silent Ino. Was she truly a mirror to the blonde? She does poorly in her efforts cause she has all this pressure on her, but when she's alone she can do things freely. Kind of like me, but I don't care whether someone is watching or not. Naruto continued his musings while watching Hinata practice another round. Somehow, during his musings, the pair of blondes were watching her behind a tree where the girl was training. Ino wondered how they got to hear from watching from the second-floor classroom, but shook off her wandering thoughts. As Naruto explained her qualities as opposed to himself, Ino started to see the similarities of the girl's efforts to his own. Whenever Naruto would do a decent job, the girl's efforts improved substantially. However, Ino thought to herself that when Hinata was up before Naruto, her efforts were erratic, like a bat in the sunlight. Naruto and Ino weren't the only ones who saw Hinata's performance slide up and down. Iruka noticed the connections between the blonde and the heiress as well and began making Hinata go first to try and break her dependence on Naruto's performance mirroring hers. She won't make it far if she has to see someone else do a superior job and using that as her grading scale, after all. After the day's practice ended, Ino decided to confront Hinata and extend her friendship to her. Her spying on the girl's practices made a level of respect for the girl rise within Ino. As Naruto left to his evening practice, Ino approached the practicing Hinata. Her focus was sharper than earlier today in the class practice, and Ino wondered why was she really hiding her talents in the face of others. If she was really this good, then she would be a shoo-in for the female lead at school. Ino waited until Hinata finished before approaching a slightly tired Hinata. "Hey!" Ino greeted a startled Hinata, who started to revert back into her shy mode. Ino frowned internally. This would not do. "Why yes?" Hinata stuttered out, and her eyes were shifting side to side, as if trying to spot other hidden students. "That was pretty good. You seem like a pro shooting those shuriken," Ino complimented, trying to break the ice between the rapidly shying girl. It seemed to work as Hinata started to blush at the compliment. "Thanks," Hinata murmured as she started to pick up her shuriken that missed her target. Ino had to tread carefully now. She didn't want to seem forceful to the girl. Perhaps trying to compliment some more? "I've been seeing you practice for a while now." Ino started and saw her stiffen, but in fear or surprise she didn't know. "I think you would be a good person for being our head female student of our class. You would be able to sha." Ino was interrupted by a soft murmuring from Hinata. "Ngh," Hinata said again as Ino strained to hear her words again. This time, however, Hinata snapped and did a 180 change. "I said I'm not good enough," Hinata said angrily before gasping and collecting the rest of her things. Ino's shouts of calling back Hinata were ignored as she ran off from the school grounds. Ino sighed. There was more to Hinata's story than what was being shown. Hinata was the heir to Konoha's most powerful clan politically, and some would argue physically. Her story was ranging from being on easy street to being the hardest path since the founding of the village. Hinata could only describe her life as hell. Her father seemed to be judging her from her first breath each morning to her daily spars with her vindictive sister. Her father was strict as being the head of the clan demanded that he be so, but his actions in the years after her third birthday bordered on sadistic and Hinata could only guess her uncle's death hit him very hard. Her sister was raised from the beginning to be the perfect little soldier, and viewed her human sister as an obstacle to her rise for power. Hinata still remembered her first year. She was so sweet and innocent who looked at life with a shining eye of curiosity. That was before her father took her for personal training. Her eyes are dulled and mocking now. Most of her sights were aimed at Hinata. Her father demanded a lot of her, but to Hinata, her spars with her own sister was some sort of a sick pleasure to him. As if he enjoyed trying to distance the two blood sisters apart more and more apart with each fight. Hinata didn't make the connection until her sister, Hanabi, used her innocent expression to startle Hinata and used the hesitance to soundly defeat her. Her father's words sounded true in her head as he gave his analysis of their fight. Sometimes your enemy will do the same thing to you and it won't be as simple as a knockout. Even if it is your sister, she is your opponent first. Her father was infamous for showing no emotion, but Hinata could have sworn that her father's eyes shined with a memory behind them. After that, she started practicing and trying to be as emotionless as was required to be a future head clan. That was before she met Naruto Uzumaki. His spirit and strength was what she needed to truly change, but she couldn't seem to muster up any courage to talk to the strong boy. Instead, she observed him and copied his performance to look for the answer instead. For years she observed and committed his training and performance on the field to be her own. It wasn't until recently that she saw a change in the boy's mannerisms. It was almost instant as he started to show a more calculating side to his usual bright demeanor. She concluded that Naruto found the answer that she was seeking, that he found the one thing that she tried to emulate all these years. It was years since her father's words were spoken, and she still couldn't find the answer. So she kept training in the style that Naruto frequented, and her aiming skills were getting near impeccable. Her other problem was her own self-esteem, and the mechanisms of the student body. As she was observing, she was able to see how the shift of school popularity and power was distributed around the two top students of their grade. She was confused as to how someone who was the epitome of true strength like Naruto was ridiculed as the class clown, while someone who uses strength for darker purposes like Sasuke is admired by all. Hinata was one of many who knew that Sasuke's clan was obliterated in one night, but she didn't know who did it. When she eavesdropped on gossiping villagers, there were multiple guesses. One was saying that it was an inside job, and another was a spy in the clan loyal to another village. For all the theories, Hinata felt that none of them was close to the truth. It was a real surprise when Ino Yamanaka, a girl high in the popularity scale, came to talk to her. She looked like she was very interested in talking to a girl who was supposed to be invisible to her social radar. Hinata shook her head. No one wanted to be her friend. Anyone who talked to her saw her as Hyuga-sama or Hinata-sama. They always wanted to score points with the clan if they could make friends with the heiress. So she ran from the girl who approached her, but her sad view as she activated her Byakugan made her falter a bit. Could she be her first friend? No, she reminded herself. She wanted something, just like everyone else. As Hinata was on the road to where her clan compound was at, she stopped. Her thoughts were taking a dark turn again if she didn't stop. Thinking of Naruto and his never-give-up personality made her thoughts grow brighter. He always somehow influenced her personality, and made her try and see the bright side of things. It worked in the beginning for a while, but now and again it fails miserably, and her thoughts go dark again at a much faster rate than before. As she stepped closer to her compound, a sharp ringing in her ears started to sound. Hinata groaned and clutched her head. Those dark thoughts were starting to affect her physically now. She needed to regain control. A sudden flare-up in chakra came up from Hinata as she collapsed on the ground but did not lose unconsciousness. She looked up weakly and her eyes widened. A being with a dark aura was looking at her with a neutral face before looking around its surroundings. As the figure stepped into the light, Hinata stared in astonishment. It was another her. The being, Hinata's copy, only sneered as she looked back at the original. It wasn't fully independent from its prison, if the growl from her copy's throat and even sharper glare was evident enough. When the copy spoke, it sounded like her voice laced with a demonic aura. It was full of hate, but her intentions were whimsical as it spoke rather lightly. It seems that I can't be myself again. I still feel a need to be linked by human mannerisms from you. No matter, I shall hide you while I live your life for you. I shall eat for you, so your body won't wither. Your energy is fully mine, however, so you won't be able to move. The copy paused. Now where to hide you? The copy spoke to itself while looking around. Hinata could only stare as her weakness allowed herself to be beaten by her own thoughts. I've got it, I'll hide you in plain sight. The copy seemed happy as it dragged Hinata's form to a broken fence. It threw Hinata into the broken fence and dragged a nearby trash can to hide the girl. Hinata found to her horror that she couldn't even scream for help. I told you, I have all your energy. You won't be able to talk, walk, or even blink. I'm not that cold-hearted though. You can still breathe and move your eyes. The copy laughed as it walked away in the form of Hinata. Hinata wanted to cry at her situation, but found that she had no energy to even muster up the tears. For the next few days, the copy kept up appearances. It didn't escape Ino, however, that the girl she tried to befriend the other day changed attitudes on and off. Sometimes she would shy away and copy Naruto's score in physical tests, and other times she would score top marks. At first she thought it was your normal coming out of your shell thing. When she tried to ask Sasuke out, however, not only was Ino pissed off, but she was instantly suspicious. The girl had no interest in Sasuke-kun before, and judging from the surprised look from Sasuke before brushing her off, he thought so too. Of course, it didn't stop from the more ignorant admirers from trying to confront her. The school nurse saw record cases of girls crying and sporting black eyes or bruises from direct assaults on the girl. Ino went to visit them out of the sake of saving face of her popularity when she saw Sakura laying unconscious in a bed and she was looking the worst out of all of them. The nurse explained that she used ninja knowledge to defeat the girl, and Hinata used ninja and clan techniques to obliterate Sakura. Thankfully, it seemed that she missed anything vital and would be recovering from her dark bruises with the aid of medical chakra. She would be up and running tomorrow morning, she reported to a worried Ino. As much as she tried to see Sakura as her rival, she couldn't help remembering that she was her best friend first. She would have to tell Naruto about it, as something was not right with Hinata, but couldn't pinpoint what was wrong. She left the office, not noticing that Sakura had an eye open as she walked away. Ino always felt that the cat was more than meets the eye to Naruto. Aside from the fact it can talk and is invisible, the cat seems to be teaching a type of discipline to the boy. Granted, His personality hasn't changed much as he still looks like and acts like a clown in class. His demeanor, however, when in a fight is that of a seasoned samurai, or getting close to it. He looked so serious when she saw him do combat in that other world. It was as he was analyzing the moves of his opponent with every swing and parry that Naruto and his opponent connected. She soon caught up to where he was, investigating the portal to the dark world. Naruto! Ino called out, and Naruto looked back to a waving girl. He wasn't sure, but he felt that Ino was kind of like a sidekick to him. She was like a friend to him while they were discussing the other world, but most of the time it was like they were complete strangers. So for her to call him out like this, well, it was strange at least. "What's up, Ino? Is there another demon on the prowl?" he asked the girl, who looked as if she was contemplating the question. "Yes, maybe? I don't know. Something's wrong with Hinata." Ino got frustrated at how to label Hinata's shifting personality. She was also getting embarrassed at the gathering civilian children whispering rumors to each other. She couldn't hear what they were saying naturally, but she was sure it wasn't good. "Who's Hinata?" he asked, confused. Ino looked at him as he was stupid. He was observing the girl for several days and he didn't know her name. "The girl you were stalking, stupid!" Ino shouted, ticked off at the boy's stupidity. "I wasn't stalking her. I was just observing." Naruto tried to defend himself while considering the fact that he was probably stalking her. "Come on, let's go to my house. We might be able to talk to Goto-sensei about it," Naruto added as he walked past Ino and the twittering children. Ino wondered who the hell was Goto-sensei, but followed him, the gossiping children way in the back of her mind. It was the third night as Hinata's doppelganger when the copy arrived at the compound. The copy was greeted by a stern-looking father. "Hinata, time for your lesson," he said simply and walked off. He thought it strange when Hinata just followed silently, as she always stuttered a bit before following. When the copy arrived, it found herself against the little girl. It assumed that it was that girl's sister or relative. "The rules are the same as last night. Begin!" the clan head shouted as he stepped back to watch the fight. Hinata needed to start showing an improvement before he could call her his heir. If she continues to hold back, the clan is doomed. A shout of vigor was heard from the little girl as she tried to strike the copy. What happened next shocked the observers of the fight as Hinata grabbed the wrist of the little girl and used some momentum to twist the girl's wrist. Hanabi tried to wrench away, but the copy swung her by the hurt wrist and threw her away from her. She landed painfully on the floor with her hands trying to instinctively cushion the fall. The clan head, Hayashi, looked on in wonder. Could the string of losses finally snap Hinata's meekness in half? He looked on with an impassive face as his thoughts betrayed his emotions. Hanabi hissed a bit, and used her only good arm with some kicks for good measure at a still Hinata. She was shocked when Hinata used her hands and a basic stance to block them all. Hinata still hasn't attacked, but that was normal as she used counters to try and push her off. Her hurt wrist was a new counter as Hinata never tried to hurt her, even while countering. The copy was getting bored but it had to stay in character. The skin it was wearing and the thoughts it had stolen from the girl suggested that she was very pacifistic. Hanabi then tried to use a new move that she learned from her father's private training. First she jumped behind a surprised Hinata, who moved to block her futile onslaught. She then used the pointed strikes that she practiced for months on the back of Hinata. "Take this," Hanabi shouted as she hit the known pressure points on the back and was satisfied as Hinata stumbled forward. She ran to the front of her dizzy opponent and struck her pressure points on the front when done correctly, did an automatic knockout and granted her victory. As a finishing move, she put all her energy into a tackle and sent the girl flying. The copy was pissed at this point, no more acting and avoiding suspicions. This little girl tried to kill her? She would pay. As Hayashi sighed and moved to stand up and grant another victory to Hanabi, his eye spotted a struggling Hinata. He sat down and watched the shocked little girl see her disabled opponent stand up with nary a scratch on her. The copy lunged toward a shocked Hanabi as it used stolen memories to strike the girl almost identically over the girl's body. She then grabbed the pained girl and tossed her into the air. Hayashi was almost certain that his eyes played tricks on him as a flash of dark chakra enveloped his oldest daughter. Her voice also shook him to the core. A voice that wasn't hers growled out of her throat and shouted something that he paid no heed to. It looked like she finally fell out of her meekness and became the soldier he was looking for. Time to end this Miyadun. Hinata almost phased out as several beams of purple light sparkled above the flying Hanabi. Of course, this was all invisible to those who can't see such energy. Hayashi could only see Hinata speed out of his vision range and Hanabi scream out in pain as several puncture holes appeared in her body. What was really happening to the girl was much more. Dark beams pierced through her body and was sending dark energy through her pores on her skin. She moaned as the dark energy was practically eating away at her life force before it stopped. She fell like a rag doll and landed painfully on the arena grounds. Hayashi saw Hinata phase back into existence and had to wonder if the Byakugan failed him, as he had it activated all throughout the fight. Hinata slowly stepped onto Hanabi's eyesight range and contemplated her fate this day. Hanabi didn't like to do this, but she had to win. She reverted back to her innocent gaze to try and buy her some time to pull out a victory. However, Hinata didn't seem fazed by her false look and looked enraged for some reason. The copy had enough of this little wench's tactics and raised her fist to end her pitiful life. She charged her energy with darkness as tried to snuff out the desperate girl's life. The fist came down but was being blocked for some reason. She looked toward who was holding her fist from accomplishing her task and was startled. So were the onlookers of the fight. It was a haggard-looking Hinata, but her cold eyes told the onlookers that she was fighting a malicious copy of herself. What they didn't expect was a blonde-haired kid and another blonde-haired girl approaching behind Hinata. The boy's sword was drawn out and the girl was watching the duplicate with intensity, as if seeing something that wasn't visible to the clan head's eyes. Meanwhile, Goto was analyzing the situation as he searched his memories as to what was born from the dark thoughts of a little girl. As the two copies faced off in silence, he narrowed it down to a few demons, but had to see them fight to remove his doubts. Hayashi stood silent as Hinata's eyes were different from the duplicate. Her eyes were focused, calm and ready to do battle, while the duplicate had widening eyes and her eyes were shifting from white to red. The copy wasted no time as her fist charged dark energy and tried to use a stabbing motion to Hinata, who stepped outside and countered by using her weight to slam her arm to an exposed back. The copy hissed as the wounds didn't completely recover from the little wench's tactic. As the copy went to charge the original Hinata, Naruto began to charge with a group of Hyuga clansmen as backup toward the fake Hinata when two voices shouted at the same time. "Stop!" yelled Hayashi, halting his clansmen. "Stop!" shouted Goto, who stopped Naruto and Kushina from joining the fray. Ino looked at the cat curiously and waited for a reason to why. "This is her fight, let her fight for her right to exist," Hayashi said quietly, as if enjoying a theater show than a death match between a daughter and her apparent fake. "I recognize the demon masking as that girl, and your blade cannot touch it. Only she can do harm to it," Goto explained and watched the fight unfold. Naruto didn't want to stay still and watch an innocent girl get killed on his watch, but his master teacher/cat was a lot more knowledgeable about these things than he was. Reluctantly, Naruto put his blade away. Ino was fascinated about Goto's explanation. How old was this cat? Could she try and study about these demons somewhere? She would have to look into that. Maybe she could ask Victor? Ino shuddered suddenly. Her instincts told her that it was a very, very, very bad idea. "You couldn't stay still, could you? I would have made you great." The copy Hinata snarled as she used a leg sweep technique on Hinata, who hopped away. "My dark thoughts will never make me great." The real Hinata shot back as she used her shuriken set that the copy didn't bother to take with it. The next few seconds were spent dodging several sharp pieces of metal thrown by the original. The copy, not used to projectiles, took most of the shuriken to her blocked arms and legs. Where blood would spill from the wounds, however, only a dark wispy energy did instead. The copy looked on in agony as the energy sustaining this skin was being released. If it didn't get out soon, the energy would implode, taking it with it. The normal people who couldn't see anything abnormal were able to see the real form of the copy heiress as it just started ripping the skin off. Besides making some members ill, they were treated to a form completely different from the heiress. This form had a blonde bowl-cut hairstyle, and a shirt covered by an overall carpenter pants. The copy's eyes were demon red and it was holding a butcher knife at its weapon. It had an insane smile on it as it brandished it wildly at the serious heiress. "Now it begins," Hayashi said to himself as he looked at the beaten form of his second daughter. He advised against using such tactics when he began training her. Nowadays, she kept using it against her sister every time he made them fight. He briefly considered that someone was training her outside his authorization, but dismissed it and chalked it up to a personal choice. As he focused on his eldest daughter's fighting form, he could already see the bad habits that weakened the form of the majestic Hyuga clan style that they were feared for. If she and her sister could only break those habits, there wouldn't be much criticism from him and more helpful tips. His teacher did the same way with him and his brother, and they turned out to be prodigies of the clan. "My skin is shed. I don't have to act like you anymore," the demon snarled as he lunged toward a waiting Hinata. Goto nodded in confirmation as his mind pinpointed what this demon was. The dark thoughts of the girl must have incubated this demon from its weakened state to what it is now. He was surprised that there were demons like this still remaining, but if Victor of all people can survive for a millennium and a half and still have a physical body to boot, then things like this could happen. As I thought. This one demon is rare because it has been rarely seen since before the Yatagarasa's founding nearly 3,000 years ago. It is of the Yama clan, a nightmare. Goto spoke out to a listening Naruto and Ino. The fight that they were seeing was much like a dance, almost strike for strike were the two combatants making against one another. It was as if Hinata was striking a mirror that could hit her back. Hinata only stood calmly as she watched her demonic copy try and lunge at her again with that dark knife of his. If that was his only attack, then he should be defeated soon. She wasn't playing any games at the moment. This copy tried to steal her life. Her thoughts gave birth to it, and now her body will end its reign. Glancing at the beaten Hanabi, it gave her resolve a boost as the little girl only moaned a bit in pain from the dark piercing spell. A sudden click in the back of her mind sounded as everything went in slow motion. The lunge of the copy slowed to a crawl and her observers were standing still as if time wasn't passing for them but her only. Her hands started glowing with a bright white energy as a whisper of an attack settled in her memories. Use it now, the memory commanded. Not one to question a powerful voice giving her a gift, Hinata complied and said the name of her attack aloud. What came next could only be described as incredible. To this day, no other records of this variation could be found. Juho Saoshiken, Hama! Hinata shouted and she struck faster than even Hayashi could see. What he got a glimpse of was a large spark of white energy, something unheard of before, gathered in both her hands. She then flashed out of sight and struck her stunned doppelganger with so much speed that spectral heads of an animal lingered for a few seconds before imploding in a bath of white light. The demon only looked shocked before just disappearing in a pitch-black light that was pierced by a delayed animal head before the light shattered into nothing. Hinata could only pant in exhaustion as she collapsed on the ground. Her fellow clansmen rushing both her and Hanabi to the clan's medical housing for treatment. Hayashi only took a glimpse at the outsiders and ordered 2 other clansmen to bring them into his office. The pair struggled as they were taken away. Hayashi stayed for a while longer before leaving to attend to his guests. After Hayashi more or less demanded how they found Hinata, he recollected what both the blonde brat and the blonde heiress told him later on in the evening. The dark thoughts of the elder heir was a growing battle in her mind before it materialized itself. Normally Hayashi would call it weakness in Hinata's part, but her struggle began while his brother was alive. From what they told him, she was 3 years old when the darkness began manifesting inside her mind. How they found her was even more confounding. She was somehow spotted by the Yamanaka girl all dirted up and dehydrated from being outside in Konoha's streets day and night without a soul discovering her until the blonde girl found her by chance. After they found her, she returned to the compound and the rest was still in his mind. Somewhere inside his soul, there was a proud father who was beaming at her daughter's triumph over her self-image of evil. There was, however, the possibility of such thoughts returning in the clan head. Part of his personality urged him to train her even more so against such an occurrence, and he didn't know how. He could try meditation, but sometimes the most skillful monk would fall to the evils that the earth contained. It then came to him in a flash of inspiration. The blonde swordsman was hardly flinching as he saw the doppelganger morph into its true being. What better teacher than him? For now, though, he had some research to do, such as building plans and where the boy lived and monitoring which daughter recovered first from their injuries and exhaustion. It was a few days later and somehow, a folder containing reports of the Hyuga case and some leftover paperwork found itself to Naruto's coffee table. Despite the impossible act, it wasn't bothering Naruto that much. What was bothering him was something else, like something that was sure to screw with his day was forthcoming. He was right on the matter when he came home from the academy later that day to a sight of builders, foremen and a stern Hyuga head overseeing the construction of what looked like his living area. The man seemed to know he was approaching and gave the boy the most impassive face this side of the monument. It kinda unnerved Naruto out a little. The impassive monument spoke. You are charged with the safety, training, and well-being of my heir as she stays within your living compound while the workforce adds value to this poor sector. I do not care how you maintain it after its completion, but you must keep it in enough shape for my daughter to sufficiently train her clan style here. I highly doubt you'll be able to even understand the complexity of our sacred fighting style, so I will send a branch member every week to report on her progress. Wait, one Naruto tried to interject, but a fierce glower from Hayashi killed any protests. His eyes took an almost frigid gaze as he looked at Naruto, as if judging him in every way possible. If you fail, not only will you feel my wrath, but also the wrath of all Hyuga. Do not fail her, or me. Now you are dismissed, Hayashi said with finality as he turned away from the paling Naruto. As Naruto stumbled backwards in shock, he bumped into Hinata. The shy girl had several bags containing her belongings next to her. This simple fact drove home for Naruto as he realized he was stuck overseeing Hinata's progress, and also had the piercing eyes of the clan head behind his back at all times. Guto was rather excited by the turn of fortune his idiot student had come across. He was looking for an excuse to train in daylight for months now, and here it was. Speaking to himself, Naruto was still as a stone at the revelation. This works in our favor. The contributions of the girl's father will allow us to train in daylight, and even nighttime in your progress toward being a devil summoner. I wonder though if it is really worth it. Guto wondered to a depressed Naruto, who took his teacher's thoughts the wrong way. He was excited as well to not being able to wait till darkness to do his training, but with a hawk-like head breathing down his neck, would the reward damn him instead? What an adorable cat, Naruto-kun. What is its name? Hinata's voice asked, her eyes oddly shining with adoration. It gave Naruto some form of satisfaction as the alley cat that was his master started to sweat drop heavily. His name is Guto, can you hear him? Naruto asked quietly. Hinata looked confused as if he asked a strange question, but nodded. Her confidence was slowly growing since the fight some days previous. Of course I can hear him, all cats do that sound don't they? Like a cute meowing sound, right? Hinata asked, and Naruto wondered if she could even hear Guto's sighs of relief. It looks like Guto was getting more and more visible by the second to certain people. The adoring eyes appeared again in Hinata's eyes as Guto broke out in a cold sweat and felt a chill in the air. Naruto could only snort in laughter as Hinata had an apparent fondness for black cats. Maybe the hawk-eyed clan head's gifts weren't so bad if he could see his teacher dolled up like a stuffed toy. 2 months have passed since Hinata faced off with her doppelganger, and it has changed her in big ways. Slowly but surely, Naruto and Ino saw Hinata change from a shy and scared little girl to a very confident and talented kunoichi in training. That wasn't to say she was a complete change. She was still rather bashful to compliments given by their teacher, Irika, and would always turn pink whenever Naruto would talk to her, and that happened quite a lot. Ino would always tease that the little heiress had a crush on the boy, much to the girl's embarrassment of being found out. Sakura recovered quite nicely, and she was back to her normal scheming and planning to get the Uchiha heir to fall for her charms. Sakura and Ino were already at war again. Sakura kept quiet, however, at Ino's worried face when she opened her eyes that day at the school infirmary. It made her glad to know she still cared, even if it was buried in their rivalry. Naruto gradually saw changes to his apartment complex over the 2 months that the workers were remodeling the grounds. They certainly improved the place, that was for sure. Some passing citizens marveled at the obvious improvement to the place while wondering why did they choose here of all places. When they finished in late February, Naruto decided to inspect the improvements to his apartment complex, and he couldn't help but be impressed at how the workers transformed his home from a dump to a beautiful small complex complete with a courtyard and a small concrete wall around the perimeter of the home. He was practically living in a small upper-class civilian home with training grounds and dummy posts instead of fountains and private pools. He looked to his right, and saw a formidable training area that they built for Hinata to practice her style. Naruto could see that they took great care in building it per orders of the clan head, Hayashi Hyuga. Although he felt that giving a training ground to his eldest daughter was a strange attempt at showing love or affection, but what did he know? To his left was a makeshift dummy training course, to which Hinata allowed him to train to his heart's desire, something which Naruto was glad for, and to an extent, Guto. Naruto would often practice his stances with the supervision of Guto-sensei, and Hinata often watched along with Ino in the afternoons. Unknown to Naruto, and the obvious notice of Ino and Guto, Hinata tried very hard to synchronize her daily training time along with Naruto's own, much to Ino's amusement. Guto was delighted to see these improvements happen, as he was afraid of Naruto's progress stagnating if he only relied on stance training. Even if Naruto didn't notice, Guto saw great improvements in his student's efficiency in his swordsmanship. For example, since Naruto has began training in the early mornings and early evenings, his progress using a sword has doubled and he could now decently wield it without stumbling. He still required a bit of work, but he was no longer just hoping to swing it wildly and hope for victory. He now had a few techniques to use out in his adventures against the demon population of Dark Konoha. As he looked toward a certain dummy that was split into two, Naruto smiled as he remembered when his teacher started training him on the axe a few weeks ago. He was told that training in both the sword and the axe would give him near superiority over his specialized sword. Naruto couldn't wait to master it, and even now he was still as dedicated. His apartment got a makeover as well. Some of the workers were impressed at how the exterior of the building was hiding a modern home, and were angered in a professional and artistic sense that it was hidden for so long. After word spread of the gem in the sludge, the workers decided to bring it out of its shell and into its deserved glory. The walls inside Naruto's home and outside the complex were repainted to a more vibrant white instead of the rusty red. It matched the walls of the complex, and it was an impressive sight when they rebuilt the perimeter and redid the tiles on the roof to give it an incredible beacon of hope to the surrounding homes of the impressive building. Thanks to Hayashi's generous donations, the place looked rather classy for a complex set in the edge of the poor sector. Any passerby would say that Naruto's home was part of the middle sector of Konoha's population instead of the beginning of the poor sector. Naruto had never seen a happier cat as Goto toured the area for the first time. It was as if the cat was visiting a place of his past, as he would stop for a moment in a certain area before moving on. Shaking his head, he got his schoolbooks and empty scrolls for writing before walking out of his apartment to awaiting Hinata, who chose to walk with him to the academy nowadays. Usually, Ino would walk with them, but sometimes she was seen walking with other civilian ninja hopefuls or in a competition with Sakura over some crazy Sasuke-related thing. When the duo arrived in school, they passed by the busy students putting up banners and streams for the year's graduating class. Every May was the final month for the upper-class students of the academy to enter the service of the Hokage's Shinobi Corps. Shinobi were the names for the earliest ninja of the newly constructed Konoha, and the term ninja was adopted by the future generations. They were the same definition, but it seems when one identifies expert shinobi, they think ninja. Hinata was quite overjoyed when she learned that her cousin Niji was selected to be the graduating rookie of the year. She always mentioned that even if he was a relative instead of a full-blooded sibling like her sister, she always treated him like the older brother she never had. Naruto did notice that she had a hint of sadness whenever she mentioned, as if something wasn't right with her description. Like all Hyuga, Niji was very calm, very serious, and would practice his family's sacred moveset for hours on end. However, he has one belief, a belief shared by both branch members and main house members. He believed in fate controlling every move, every reward, and every punishment. So naturally, he believed that his reward of the Rookie of the Year title was only due to the cosmic forces gifting him for his servitude to the laws of fate. He also saw his punishments of obeying the laws of fate every day of his life. Niji Hyuga was in lifelong service to the main house of the Hyuga clan. He was their soldier, servant, and in Niji's belief, an expendable member of war for the main house's use. As with all Hyuga, he took every assigned duty with complete seriousness. It was his turn to obtain the report from the training area that the Hyuga clan had built for the clan heir Hinata. Always silent aside from affirmation of his orders, he was internally seething about the obvious preferential treatment that the heir was shown daily. It all began with his father's sacrifice to pay for the folly that the clan had committed against the diplomatic envoy from the Lightning Village. He, like everyone not involved in the crisis, wasn't told anything else other than a mistake was made and that their clan leader was involved. What he found repulsive was that they just used his father, the clan head's twin no less, to give a free pass to the clan head, who wasn't even honorable enough to even mention his twin's sacrifice. For that act alone, Niji privately damned him to hell forever. He couldn't lash out at the head in any way, however, the mark would see him turn to a vegetable in an instant. Niji shook away his cropping memories. He had a duty to attend to, and thinking on these things were not part of it. As Niji was walking down the main road in the poor sector, he had to wonder if he got the wrong address. It was his first time, but he was expecting a high-class area, not a slum. Still, orders from the clan head himself couldn't be wrong. Looking at the written directions from a fellow branch member who got the report before him, he was glancing around the area. He saw the area full of ragged clothed children of the orphanage running around and playing their little games. From what he read in his academy class textbooks, Niji learned that this was a promising middle sector before the Kyuubi, strongest demon of the 9 who roamed the world they knew, attacked and turned this place into a desolate land. He was thankful that it was defeated by the 4th Hokage some 11 years ago. He was a little surprised when he approached the training area. He expected a wall-encased mansion with fountains and fancy gardens like in the main house grounds. Just to be sure, he activated the Byakugan, a special power granted to all Hyuga to observe the interior of the place, and was further surprised at his observations. He was watching a humbly built dojo training ground with a concrete fence circling a good amount of land with a training circle on one side and dummy posts on the other side. The building seemed to be an apartment complex that should have held 15 people or families. Instead, he could see a lot of dark windows and no occupants. On closer inspection, he could see that the windows weren't wiped clean in years and not a single piece of furniture was present in the first floor rooms when he used his clan's gifted eyes to inspect the area. Knocking on the oak doorways, the same type of doorways that he could recognize from the Hyuga mainlands, he entered to see exactly what he saw ahead of time except for one thing. A girl, with long flowing red hair and a dress that shows her outline but does not hug her form. She was busy looking at the sky and had a bored look on her features. She looked a little older than he was, but for a civilian, she was certainly a high-class noble's daughter. What was she doing in a terrible sector like this? She looked like she belonged in high-class territory of Konoha's elite. Nevertheless, he had a mission to do, and the beautiful girl above him on the second floor wasn't part of it. Remembering his earlier reconnaissance of the place, Niji planned to walk up the stairs and knock on the only room of the building that had furniture inside, and was surprised to see that the girl was next to the door he was walking to. The girl didn't seem to pay him any attention as he walked past her, but his eyes couldn't help but roam over her form before a blush appeared on his face as he looked away. Kushina was initially startled that this boy could see her, because the girl with the same eyes could see only Goto and not her. She could also see his cloudy eyes roam over her body. She was flattered, but he was just too young for her. Not that she could even attempt something at this anyways, as she was for all reasons and explanations dead. The boy didn't know that though, but before she could say something to him, the girl arrived to the door and greeted the boy. While Naruto allowed a room for the girl's things to be put in, the girl, Hinata, she reminded herself, spent most of her time in Naruto's home. Kushina got her kicks by pointing out to Naruto or Goto about her apparent crush to either of them. Goto only hummed and mentioned something about the mysterious 14th, and a name. Nagi was what he murmured whenever she talked to him about it. Naruto, on the other hand, looked clueless. It looked like he didn't understand the implications yet, and looked totally lost whenever she mentioned it. As they were talking, she could overhear a strained politeness on the boy's voice and a stoic look as he listened to a happily-faced Hinata as she talked about her training and her life. Kushina just knew that the boy wouldn't report on her miscellaneous words about her life and her inquiries about the boy's health. She looked like she was treating him like a cousin or brother of sorts, and the boy did not respond to any of the questions that she asked about him. The boy saw her as a master to him, and would not respond outside of commands. It was really sad to Kushina. As soon as he bowed stiffly to Hinata and left, Kushina could hear Hinata mumble something like Niji Nizan before closing the door. A few minutes later, Naruto stepped out and had his training clothes, a simple shirt and shorts, on. "Alright. Time for some training," Naruto shouted out before hopping over the railing. Kushina was at first worried that the drop would damage his feet, but he told her that he's been doing this since he was 6 years old, and nothing happened to him. She mentally added yet to the explanation and would still warn against such things, but he would just ignore her and do his thing with the railings. As she watched her partner practice with enthusiasm, she had to wonder where these feelings of concern and fear for the boy had come from. She first guessed it was the magic of the contract with the boy, but for some reason, the feelings felt motherish? Was she mothering the boy? Kushina shook his head. Of course any woman would mother over an orphan. But this particular orphan felt special to her, although the contract forces some feelings of protection to their masters. Still, she didn't think the contract had any effect at all on these feelings that she had for Naruto, so what was it? She continued to ponder as she watched Naruto go to town on the training dummies. Goto was thinking on an entirely different matter while he sat on a pillow near the coffee table in Naruto's apartment. The lack of real-life experience was troubling the cat in his bid to train Naruto in the ways of being a devil summoner. He considered sending Naruto back into the dark world of Konoha, but there would be no guarantee that Victor would be there to bail them out if Kushina was killed again in combat. What to do? He was suddenly picked up by Hinata and he cursed his wandering mind for shutting down his danger instincts. The first time he was picked up by Hinata, he was treated to a rough bath by the girl, while she hummed happily to herself. A pink bow that she acquired somewhere was then stuck on the cat's collar and let go after being dried off quickly and roughly. All the while, Goto was cursing her very being for treating him this way. He was boggled. How could the girl pick him up and give him a bath of all things? He was a 3,000-year-old spirit, for crying out loud. Was it this mockery of magnetite called chakra giving him a corporeal form after all these years? He didn't understand, and he always analyzed anything he came upon, so it ticked him off. The next day Naruto met up with Aino as Hinata stayed behind at the complex to train her forms some more. The blonde duo started to recognize each other as friends and were hanging out more and more, much to the dismay of Inoichi. He still believed that